My 34M ex-wife 32F divorced me after she got cancer, so that she could leave first. Now she wants to come back. Should I give her another chance? I met my wife, I'll call her Anna, during our first year of university. We dated through university, and got married right after her graduation. Things were happy for about a while until Anna discovered a lump in her right breast. I encouraged her to have it checked out. She was reluctant to do so, but ultimately did because breast cancer runs in her family. And sure enough, that's what she had. The good news, if it can be considered good news, was that the breast cancer she had was extremely treatable with chemo and radiation. Based in her family history, her doctor also recommended a double mastectomy for her. This put Anna in a really dark place. I suggested she go to therapy, but she outright refused, and said she never wanted to hear me suggest that again. So I did my best to be encouraging and supportive to her. I took time off work to be at every appointment with her. I took on 100% of the household chores, both inside and out. I did all of the shopping. I drove Anna everywhere she wanted to go. I planned out special dates for us. I gave her an hour-long foot massage every night. I literally did whatever I could. About 6 weeks into her treatment, Anna brought up the idea of going to stay with her sister Sarah for a week. This honestly relieved me, as I was burning the candle at both ends, trying to accomplish everything, and I thought some time apart would help us both. 2 nights into her stay with Sarah, Anna called me and said she wanted a divorce. She said she had read a lot about men who abandon their wives when their wives get sick, and that she was determined to leave me before I could leave her. I can't put into words how much this crushed me. I loved my wife. She was my everything. I begged her to reconsider. I told her I had never thought of leaving her. Not even once. I asked her again to go to therapy. She refused again. I asked her to go to couples therapy with me. She wouldn't. I asked her what I could do to convince her I wanted to stay. She said there was nothing. I am a man, and therefore I would leave. End of story. It took about a year because of where we live, thanks COVID, but eventually everything was finalized. I ended up selling the house and splitting the proceeds between me and my now ex-wife. I didn't want to stay in that town anymore, so I put in a transfer request at my job and ended up moving to a town about 2 hours away. For the past couple of years, I've been focusing on myself more. I got a dog. I've been on a few dates, but nothing serious. I picked up hiking as a hobby and started gardening out of the blue. Anna called me 3 weeks ago. She said she'd been in town on a trip with friends and saw me, and all of her old feelings rushed back. She said she was sick and out of her mind at the time, and that I couldn't hold her words or her actions against her. She said she still loved me, that she always had, and that she regretted leaving me. She begged me to give her another chance. I'm so confused, if I'm being honest. I still love Anna, but I'm no longer in love with her. She broke my heart. I was devastated when she ended things. It took me a long time to get my head on right, but I also know she really was in a bad place because of the cancer. Do I owe it to her? And what we had to hear her out? I'm scared that if we reconnect, I'll always feel like she'll have one foot out the door. But maybe that's unfair? I don't know what to do. Should I give her another chance like she wants? Relevant comments. Commenter. 1. I never recommend couples getting back together unless the issues that drove them apart are fixed. Cancer was not the problem. Lack of communication, trust, and a willingness to compromise was on her end. She made unilateral decisions without caring how it affected you. She refused therapy. The way you're writing this, it's still all about what she wants, which sounds like the dynamic that destroyed your marriage. So what changed? I wouldn't do it. But if you want to open the door, you need to start with brutally honest couples therapy, and her active and honest participation is non-negotiable and a deal-breaker. Otherwise, have the therapy to hash out and bury the past, and see if dating is an eventual possibility. You guys need to start from scratch, and it's okay if you try it and you can't move on like she expects you to. She hurt you regardless of her motivations. Sometimes you can't undo things. Commenter. 2. Like going to therapy during an extremely difficult traumatic time in your life, is something you shut down and demand. Your loved one never mentions becoming emotionally healthy ever again. If you do try again, therapy should be non-negotiable. Commenter. 3. She said she was sick and out of her mind at the time, and that I couldn't hold her words or her actions against her. She hasn't changed. Here she is refusing to take responsibility for her actions, when you both know you gave her every opportunity to find help. If she really wanted to make things work with you, why did it take her seeing you by chance to do something? No, she's just lonely and is trying to shoot her shot because she's betting you're not over her. Commenter 4. Exactly. She's over 30 and still won't even take responsibility for her actions. Cancer doesn't change your personality like that, not your values. She's the same person who divorced him and hasn't changed. Commenter 5. That's rough, mate. You don't owe her anything. The divorce took a year. Then you were apart for 2 years. Why did it take her so long to realize leaving you was a mistake? Personally, I wouldn't take her back. Commenter 6. Because she was seeing someone else. 100%. Commenter 7. She's not sincere. Look at what she told you. I always loved you and regretted leaving. I'd been in town on a trip and saw you, and all my feelings came rushing back. Where'd they rush back from if she always loved you and always regretted leaving? She feels guilty for hurting someone who loved her. If you take her back, she will feel forgiven. That bygones have become bygones. But when her guilt goes away, it doesn't mean she starts loving you. It just means she doesn't have the guilt to motivate her to make it up to you. She'll be back in a relationship with a guy she doesn't love and has already left once. Go pet your dog and let nothing serious become something she's guilty, not love-struck, and you're grieving, not love-sick. If you can do so sincerely, forgive her. That could prove cathartic for you both in moving forward. Has she even apologized to you? Update. My 34M ex-wife, 32F, divorced me after she got cancer so that she could leave first. Now she wants to come back. Should I give her another chance? Firstly, I'd like to say thank you to everyone who left comments on my original post. I now know what people mean when they say, "Rip my inbox." I posted that and went to bed never expecting it would blow up so much. By the time I woke up, the post was locked, not sure why, so I couldn't respond to any comments. But I read as many as I could and tried to take everything into consideration. Many of you suggested I reach out to my ex-wife, Anna, for an in-person conversation. The overwhelming consensus was that meeting her in person would tell me all I needed to know. And you were right. That seemed reasonable to me. I texted her, and she jumped at the chance to meet, and we did so yesterday after I was done work. I chose to ask her to meet at a local coffee shop. Maybe it sounds bad, but I didn't want to meet her at my house or anywhere private just in case. Anyway, Anna was already there when I got there. She got up and hugged me. I let her, but didn't hug her back. Then we sat down. I asked her to remain quiet while I talked, and then I told her everything. I'm gonna sum it up here because I honestly don't remember everything I said. I think I talked for like 10 minutes solid while she just sat there and teared up. But I told her things like how much she had devastated me. I told her that I would have stuck with her through thick and thin, no matter what. I told her that I loved her, and that hadn't changed after her diagnosis or treatment plan. I told her that I was broken after she initiated the divorce. I told her how hard it was for me to pull myself back together. A lot of you pointed out that if Anna and I got back together, I should be worried about what she would do the next time she got sick, or if I got sick, and you were right. So I told her that too, and she got mad and interrupted me at that point. She said I was being unfair, that I wasn't taken into consideration her mental health at the time. She said she wasn't thinking straight, but that now she was. I took the chance to ask her if she'd been to therapy. She told me she hadn't, and that she had no plans to, and that she didn't need it. I have to admit, that crushed me a little. I asked her why, just why. It's the one question I've really wrestled with over the months. And she said that she'd gone looking for support groups and found a lot of women who had stories about their partners leaving. She even mentioned Reddit. Funnily enough, she said she talked it through with her sister. Sarah. Anna said that Sarah, to her credit, had tried to dissuade her from divorcing me, but that between social media and some of Anna's friends, Anna felt like she had to go through with it to be seen as a strong woman. That is word for word what she said to me. I don't remember anything else exactly, but I will never forget that. She broke my heart and threw away our relationship, because somehow in her mind that translated to being strong. She then started trying to tell me we could get back together again. But at that point, I just told her flat out that wasn't happening. What it comes down to for me is that I just can't trust her. I would always be worrying about the same thing happening again. She cried, a lot, and tried convincing me for a little while when I got up to leave. She threw her iced coffee in my face and stormed out. So yeah, we're definitely not getting back together. I have the closure I always wanted. I wish it felt better. I've been dwelling on it for the past day and a half. I keep wondering if there's something I could have done better, some way I could have saved our relationship, but I know there's not. I've blocked her number. I kind of hope I never hear from her again. Relevant comments, commenter 1. I'm glad you got the closure you needed. She seems like she's always trying to save face and puts her reputation over anything else. She even did it when she threw the drink in your face. She saw you getting ready to walk away, and she didn't want the perception that dumped her in public. So she did that to make you look like the villain. I hope you find happiness moving forward and meet someone who truly understands through sickness and health. Be strong, brother. Commenter 2. It seems like even before her cancer diagnosis, she has a my way or the highway type of attitude. The divorce was for the best. Commenter 3. When I got up to leave, she threw her iced coffee in my face and stormed out. Same as it ever was. Same as it ever was. She hasn't changed at all. Commenter 4. This story is a perfect example of someone getting into a toxic environment, disguised as a support group. I don't know if the ex-wife is already bad before that, but be happy that she went and hit the road before you guys had kids. Stories number 2. Aita for rejecting my deadbeat father's wife's attempt to bring me and my sister into their family. My sister, 19F, and I, 17M, were raised by our single mom. Our father was a deadbeat who left when mom was pregnant with me, and he's got $50K of child support debt and counting toward me. My sister and I used to see him places when we were kids. It's a small town, and he never left, and neither did mom. He'd just quit jobs and go to jail, rather than pay support or be a dad. It was probably a year ago when my sister told me she saw him with a woman and kids. My sister and I were like, WTF, and then we both saw him another day with just the kids. It was weird. Another time all three of us saw them. We were all in the same diner at the same time, and he was acting like a parent for the first time ever. The woman with him noticed us watching, and it was a few weeks after she stopped me and my sister and introduced herself, and she tried to start a relationship between us all. She had met Dad online, and they were married by then, and he was the most wonderful stepdad to her kids. She approached me and my sister a few times on our own too when her first attempt at starting a relationship failed. A couple of times she told us he'd be more willing to get the child support, back payments paid, if we had a relationship. One time I got super far from her before she could get closer to me because she had one of her kids with me, and I didn't want to start any shit in front of kids. Last week she approached me on my own again, and she told me how sad it would be for us not to be a family. She said, my father would be adopting her kids in November, and she'd love me and my sister to come, and we could be a family. I asked her why she thinks either of us wants to know the family he chose to be with, and why we'd want to see him be a father to kids who aren't even his over his actual kids. I told her she's wasting her time and pissing us off, and she needs to stay the hell away from us. She tried to yell at me, but I walked away. I did hear her say something like, I didn't need to be rude to her when she was trying to be nice. Like I said, I was focused on getting away from her, but maybe I was harsh? IDK, I think saying something once is whatever, but to keep trying is way too much. Comments. Commenter 1 NTA. Your father is an just. Because he wants to reinvent himself with new wife and children does not negate your lived experience without him as a father, nor providing financial support for you and your sister. It seems that you have communicated to this woman that you were not interested, that there is nothing that he can do to make up for his years of absence and failure to provide for the children that he sired. And if you're being rude, it's because she was rude first by ignoring your previous statements and feelings about not wanting to reconnect with your dad. She is probably trying to rationalize in her mind, bringing a person, a poor character like your father, into her children's life now that she has knowledge of what kind of father he wasn't, and his own children's life. Commenter 2 NTA. She's a massive and has been harassing you. You'd said no plenty of times, and she wants you to stay polite? Tell her to stay in. Her fucking lame love. How she says your father will pay child support if he has a relationship. That is not how it works. He pays regardless. What's especially telling is that it's her trying to speak to you and not even your shit father. Reply, he should pay regardless, but we're just waiting for him to quit his job to be a SAHD while his wife is the breadwinner. It wouldn't be too hard to believe he'll go to jail again before paying at a faster rate. Commenter 3. The next time this woman approaches, you tell her that you and your sister will come over after all the child support has been caught up and continually paid, and when you do come over, you will discuss with her exactly why y'all are NC with your sperm donor. Why hasn't your mother reported the lack of this deadbeat not paying CS? You need to start pushing mom on that. That money is for you and sis. Reply, my mom has reported it multiple times. He has gone to jail for failure to pay because mom reported it. But he still has unpaid support that right now is being paid, but slowly. Commenter 4. If I understand correctly, the adoption needs to go through family court. Make sure to get a copy of the judgment for your back. Child support gets to whomever will rule. On the adoption, yeah, I'm a petty bitch. Stories number 3. Wife used my secrets and passed against me. I feel broken. I do not even know how to write this because my head feels like it is splitting in two. I keep hearing the words again and again, and I cannot believe they came out of her mouth. Reposting cause there were some grammatical mistakes. We have been married 14 years. We built what I thought was a stable life together. 2 kids, our son who is 12 and our daughter who just turned 11. They are my entire world. When I look at them, I feel the kind of love I never knew existed. Because the truth is, I never experienced that kind of love as a child myself. That is something my wife has always known about me, though it took years before I could say it out loud. When we first got married, she noticed how I never talked about my parents. She noticed I avoided talking about childhood. She would tell me her stories, warm holiday memories, her parents decorating the house, sibling arguments that turned funny later. I would just nod and smile. She told me she wanted to understand me better, to really know me. Over the years she kept pressing, until one day she begged me to open up. So I did. 7 years ago, I finally told her everything. I told her I was never meant to be here. I was the 4th child after 3 siblings, a failed contraception baby. An accident, that is the word my parents used. They reminded me constantly that they did not want me. It was not subtle, it was not hidden. It was spoken outright. I told her about the amusement park when I was 9. The day they tried to get rid of me. They left me behind on purpose. I knew it even at that age. They thought I would panic, wander off, disappear. What they did not expect was that I had already memorized the road home. Hours later they acted like it had been a mistake, like they lost me in the crowd, but I knew what it was. I knew what they had intended. I told her about the night my father wrapped his hands around my throat and squeezed, until the world went dark. At the edges I could not breathe. My head felt like it would explode. To this day I do not know why he let go. Maybe my mother walked in. Maybe something inside him pulled back at the last second. Whatever it was, I lived barely. But I lived. I told her about the food, how some nights everyone else ate, and I sat there watching. Not because we were poor. We had enough, but because I was excluded. If they bought something good, they shared it among themselves, never with me. I remember sitting at that table as a child, stomach empty, watching them laugh while I pretended not to exist. I told her how they never missed a chance to remind me I was an accident, my parents said. My siblings picked it up. It became the running joke that I should not exist, that I was the mistake they could not erase. I told her how once they admitted they had planned to abort me, but never went through with it. They said it with no hesitation, as if it were a casual piece of trivia, not a dagger to my chest. And I told her about the winter night when my father locked me outside as punishment for something I did not even do. I was maybe 10. It was freezing. I stood out there shivering, crying, my teeth rattling. I honestly thought I would not make it through the night. A neighbor eventually saw me and banged on the door until my mother opened it. That neighbor probably saved me. These are the things I poured out to my wife. It was not easy. I remember shaking as I said them. I remember how exposed I felt, like I had ripped open scars I had carefully hidden for years. She hugged me after. She told me she was glad I trusted her. She promised she would never throw those things back at me last night. She broke that promise. We argued. It was stupid. It started. With our son's homework, she said I was too soft on him, that I let things slide. I said she was too harsh. It escalated. We were both defensive. One of those arguments where you forget the point and just keep trying to win. And then she said it. She looked straight at me and said, "Maybe my father should have finished what he started that night. I don't even deserve to have a family, let alone children. That maybe it would have been better if I had not survived, that I was never wanted anyway, and I was the one who told her so." I froze. I actually thought for a second that I misheard her, but she said it again, calmly, as if she believed she was simply pointing out a truth. I cannot describe what it did to me. I have had cruel things said to me before in my life. I have been insulted, mocked, belittled. I know how to brush words off, but this was different. This was the one person I let into the deepest part of me. She took my pain and turned it into a weapon. I just stood there in silence. I did not even yell back. I could not. It felt like something shattered inside me. The rest of the night I barely spoke. She acted normal, like nothing had happened. I went to the spare bedroom and stayed there. I lay awake the entire night hearing her words over and over, blending with my parents' voices from years ago. Their cruel jokes, their reminders that I was unwanted, all coming back with her voice layered on top. I thought about the rage I carried as a teenager, how I used to wish my mother would die painfully. I thought those feelings were buried deep, but last night she dug them up and threw them right back at me. I cannot move past it. This morning she was cheerful, as if none of it had happened. I could barely look at her. All I could think was that something inside me had broken. I do not know if it can ever be repaired. Now I am sitting here thinking about divorce, or at least separation. I do not even know how to start. I do not know what lawyer to call. I do not know how to explain to the kids why their parents are breaking apart. Part of me wonders if I am overreacting, if this is just a fight gone too far, but I know myself. I know I am not overreacting because I cannot imagine ever forgetting what she said. Usually I move on. From almost anything, I swallow pain, bury it, keep going, but this is not something I can just swallow. This is different. She went to the deepest wound I have and drove the knife in. I need to say this clearly. I need validation. I need someone to tell me I am not crazy for feeling this broken. I need condolences. Because I feel like I am spiraling, replaying her words in my head. I thought my past was behind me. I thought I had buried it and moved on. Last night showed me I was wrong. It is not buried. It is alive, and it can be used against me by the very person I trusted most, and I do not know how I could ever forgive that. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. You shouldn't divorce her, words matter. It's over. Reply, Ig so. Thinking of starting with separation so that the children adjust a few weeks. Then OFC, I am asking some people for advice regarding lawyers. Commenter 2. First, I'm so incredibly sorry that you were abused by your parents as a child. What you endured growing up is absolutely awful, and my heart breaks for you. It seems odd to me that you describe the fight as little, yet she went to such a drastic place as a weapon against you. If she can go that hard over a fairly common point of contention with raising kids, imagine what she'd pull out for something bigger. No, Reddit seems to jump to leave divorce pretty quickly, but I think leaving would be something to seriously think about. If it were me, I don't know that I'd ever be able to get past it. That was lower than a low blow. My goodness, the hurt she hurled at you. I'm so sorry. Sending you a hug from afar, and wishing you find peace in your decision, and are able to heal again. Ply. Thank you. She believed that I should be more harsh to them, like maybe little beating to get them to study or shout at them, while I am more of a cool person, and would like to speak the same thing thrice over 3 days if they forgot it. And then we were battling about who does it better. Is this the first time OOP's wife has used his secrets and past against him? Reply, she has done them. One more time related to my past too, but never this deep. That's why I can't help myself but feel this way. Downvoted commenter. Here's what I would do. Have a normal conversation with her, and at some point ask her what she would suggest a wife do if in an argument her husband used her past trauma against her. Then, as the conversation progresses, try to steer the example from a third-party perspective to her own, and then do whatever she says and tell her exactly why. Reply, "Nah, I don't feel like replaying my useless past life once again. And I don't think she is a sort of a person who will go through it like a play commenter." 3. OP. For the love of God, please file for divorce. What she said is unforgivable. It's evil. No one with a soul or conscience would say something like that. The fact that it was cool and deliberate, and not in the heat of the moment, makes it worse. Commenter 4. You are not overreacting. She also knows what she's done. She didn't apologize. She didn't come and find out why you were in the spare bedroom. She knows she's beyond all words. And she doesn't love you anymore. She said it because she doesn't want your relationship anymore. She wants you to look like the bad guy and be the bad guy. Don't let that happen. First thing you should do is get a therapist. Somebody to talk to. Talking things out will keep you sane and reinforce the knowledge that you are doing the right thing when she's spinning things, and you feel crazy. Secondly, you want a divorce lawyer, and they will point you to who deals with child custody if they can't. Thirdly, I would start looking for a place to live. You don't need to move into it right away, but it can be a place you can go when things are getting too much, and it gives you time to make it a home and a safe place. This way, when you leave, she can't beg you to stay because you actually have somewhere to go. It will give you the strength to walk out. You are going to be okay. What has been forced upon you is not okay, but you still have a future. Make it how you want it. Update: I waited until Tuesday. She went through the weekend and Monday like nothing had happened, a little colder than usual, quick with her answers, acting irritated like I was the one who had caused all of this. No apology, not even a hint. It felt like I was carrying something heavy while she just moved around it. By Tuesday afternoon I couldn't hold it anymore. I asked her to sit down with me. The house was quiet. I told her I needed to talk about what she said during the fight, because this wasn't something we could just shrug off. I reminded her that the fight had started because I refused to hit our son while teaching. I told her I don't believe in beating kids to make them learn, and that she had pushed for it. That's where the argument began, and somehow it slid into something so much uglier. I asked her why she used what I told her in confidence against me. I reminded her that she had asked me to open up years ago, and promised she would keep it safe. I asked her why she hugged me back then, if this was where it would end up. At first, she was stiff. She said she didn't know what else she was supposed to do at the time. She told me she just tried to act normal, to be supportive, because she didn't know how to handle what I told her. She said she hadn't realized how heavy it all was until later. Her voice was even, like she was just explaining facts. I told her the promise mattered. I said it wasn't about a slip-in anger. It was that she reached for the exact things I handed her in trust and turned them against me. I asked her again, why? That's when she admitted it. She told me she lost some respect for me after I opened up. I asked what that meant. She said, it wasn't one detail, it was the whole picture. She said she had always seen me as solid, someone who could carry weight without bending, the person she leaned on. But after I shared everything, she couldn't stop seeing the breaks under the surface. She said parts of my story made me look fragile to her. Some of the darker pieces, the way those years sat inside me, gave her an uneasy feeling she couldn't shake. Seeing me tear up and feel so nervous and like a wreck made her look very differently at me. She actually used the word ick. She said sometimes when she remembered those things, it got in the way of how she looked at me. I asked if that meant she thought less of me for surviving. She said it wasn't about surviving. It was about how it changed what she expected from me. She admitted she had built an image of me that didn't include those kinds of wounds, and once she knew, she couldn't put that image back. I asked her why she hugged me then. Why she told me she wanted to know me fully. She said she didn't know what else to do in the moment. She didn't want to punish me for telling the truth. She said holding me and saying it was okay felt like the only decent response at the time, even though inside, she had already started to see me differently. I let that sit, then asked the harder thing. She said she couldn't control herself in that moment, and she reached for what she knew would hurt me most. She said she regretted it and that it would never happen again. I also thought about how it might sound from the outside, like maybe I had dumped too much on her back then. But the truth is, I never sat her down and unloaded everything at once. I gave her my story the way she asked for it, piece by piece, only when she pressed me. If she wanted to know something, I answered. I didn't overshare, didn't volunteer random details, and even then, she probably only ever heard a fraction of what I actually live with. What makes this worse is that I've been to therapy. I've done the work. I wasn't unloading on her because I couldn't carry it myself. The only reason she even heard those parts of me was because she demanded it. She insisted I open up, insisted she wanted the whole picture. She told me she wanted to know me fully, and I believed her. I trusted her enough to hand over things I never planned on saying out loud. That's why this betrayal feels so much heavier. It wasn't me blurting out things I couldn't control. It was me handing her pieces of myself because she begged for them, swore she'd hold them safe, and then she took those same pieces and cut me with them. It feels like giving someone your heartbeat because they said they wanted to hold it close, and then watching them drive a knife straight through it. After she said all of that, I just sat there for a while. It was like I'd finally gotten the truth behind everything, but it didn't settle in cleanly. I wasn't shocked anymore, more resigned. I also thought about how it might sound from the outside, like maybe I had dumped too much on her back then. But the truth is, I never sat her down and unloaded everything at once. I gave her my story the way she asked for it, bit by bit, only in response to her questions. If she wanted to know something, I told her I didn't add anything extra, didn't volunteer random details. And even then, she probably only heard a quarter of what I actually carry. Why was she so intent on me being open and emotionally vulnerable then? I told her I didn't think I could just go back to how things were. I said I felt like the foundation was cracked in a way I couldn't ignore. I told her maybe the only way forward was to separate amicably, quietly, before things got any worse. I said I didn't think I could keep looking at her the same way, not after knowing she could turn something so personal into a weapon. That's when her whole tone shifted. The firmness she had when she explained herself dropped, and she sounded almost panicked. She asked me not to say that, said she didn't want a divorce. She told me she still loved me, that whatever she had done in anger wasn't bigger than the life we had built. She couldn't imagine splitting the kids between us, couldn't imagine them growing up in 2 houses. She told me leaving would scar them more than anything we had been through. I told her love isn't supposed to look like tearing each other apart with the sharpest words we can find. She said she knew that and promised again that it wouldn't happen anymore. She said she had already admitted it was wrong, and she meant it when she said she'd never go there again. She kept circling back to the same point, that we had kids, that they needed us together, that whatever issues we had to fix them without breaking the family apart. She didn't cry, but there was a kind of desperation in her voice, almost like she was afraid I was already out the door and she was trying to pull me back any way she could. She didn't apologize again for what she'd said, not directly, but she kept stressing that it would never happen again, that I shouldn't throw everything away over one mistake. Right now, I haven't made a final decision. I keep going back and forth in my head. Part of me feels like the damage is too deep, and I'd be lying to myself if I pretended I could ever really see her the same way again. But another part of me hesitates, because walking away isn't simple when there are kids and years of life tied together. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't leaning more in one direction the end than the other, but I'm not there yet. I feel heavy most days, caught between wanting to protect myself and not wanting to tear my family in half. Some moments I think I know what I have to do, then I second-guess it. It's draining, but at least writing this down and hearing different perspectives has made me feel less alone in it. Thank you to everyone who's taken the time to read, comment, or even send me a message directly. It means more than I can put into words. I couldn't respond to every single individual, but I have gone through all of the comments, maybe even twice. Thank you, strangers. Top comments. Commenter 1. She wants you to focus on her and the kids more than yourself, and the hurt that she caused you. This should tell you more than anything else. What she did was essentially respond with emotional blackmail, and make you think that your actions are the reason the kids are going to be hurt, and that the relationship is potentially falling apart. Literally, a narcissistic response, commenter 2, you. She wanted you to hit the kids over homework? As someone raised hit over homework, that is, abuse. This is further reinforced by the fact that she was disgusted by the fact that you're not abusive and have been abused, and then abused you. She is abusive. Not only do you need to get out of there, but I would suggest evaluating whether your kids are safe with her. Protect yourself and your kids. Commenter 3. OP. She's trying to manipulate you. Her apology was a lie. She's not sorry. Her promise was a lie, so you can't trust her ever again. Go through with the divorce, but do not make it amicable or as friends. You didn't just drift apart mutually. She abused you. Commenter 4. Her not apologizing is what tears it for me. It signals that she still feels what she feels about you, as she had described in her explanation. And frankly, that's what makes staying difficult, if not impossible. She can promise not to do it again, but if lack of control is the reason behind launching a devastating surgical attack with emotional abuse as her primary weapon of choice, then I'm afraid her promise might ring hollow. Lack of control is what a person with abusive tendencies say to excuse their behavior. If you still have access to a therapist, I'd strongly encourage you to seek out their counsel to work through your feelings and help gain clarity in deciding what to do moving forward. I wish you good luck and light with whatever you decide to do. Stories number 4. My ex-wife and her new husband legally made their last name my full fucking name. I was married once. My ex-wife blew it all to hell by cheating on me with one of my closest fucking friends. That betrayal crushed me. But whatever I rebuilt, she kept my last name after the divorce. Weird, but I let it go fast forward. She marries the guy she cheated with. Fine closure. Good for them. But here's where it goes off the rails. Her new husband's last name is the same as my first name. So when they hyphenated, their big, shiny new married surname is now my entire fucking legal name. Imagine your name is David Carter. The guy she cheats with is named John David. They marry, hyphenate, and proudly announce themselves as Mr. and Mrs. David Carter, which is literally your name. They're on Facebook, smiling, posting, "Here's to the new official, Mr. and Mrs. David Carter." Meanwhile, I'm staring at my phone thinking, holy fuck, my ex-wife and her affair partner just legally rebranded themselves as me, and no, my name isn't common. People are going to see it and assume it's me. So tell me, am I losing my mind here, or is this just as completely fucked up as it feels? Edit. I am not on their social media. A mutual acquaintance sent me a screenshot with the adjoining text, "WTF is wrong with them?" Edit 2. If anybody would like proof, please wager $20 or more, and I will gladly supply you proof and my Venmo comments. Commenter 1. It's a win on your side. You'll be a constant reminder, a constant presence weighing on their marriage. Every time she'll sign something, she'll think of you. Every time someone will call her by her full name, Mrs. John David, she'll think of you whether she wants it or not. Right now it's fine. They're in the honeymoon phase, but eventually they'll both feel it. After every fight, every disagreement, especially if or when one of them cheat. Meanwhile, you have an objectively funny story to tell. Sorry OP, and get to move on with your life. They don't for them. Moving on will be impossible. Commenter 2. Now I need to know how much you made off getting the answer, cause I'm so curious. Reply. So far $60 with another guy saying, "Oh, I didn't think you'd deliver. Who owes me?" Commenter 3. Wait first. Why would she keep your last name hyphenated? Women usually do this with a maiden name, not a married name. And second, why would he then take her full hyphenated name? Commenter 4. I don't think this is the case here, but my mom was a doctor, retired now, and had spent decades doing and publishing tons of research. Then she got divorced from my dad and got remarried a few years later. When she took the second husband's last name, she realized that all of the work she had done with my dad's last name was basically gone and no longer tied to her, and it was pretty upsetting, and she felt like it was a major setback professionally. Then, 17 years later, when she got divorced again and remarried again, she kept the second husband's name, because she was like, I'm not giving up the name I've built for myself again Just because my last husband ended up being a cheating, stealing POS, all this did was teach me to really think before I changed my name, especially because I also work in healthcare. Thankfully, my husband was super chill and unbothered by the fact that I didn't take his last name, and now I never have to worry about my medical legacy being erased because of a name change. Stories number 5. I know that my husband is cheating on me. I need to tell someone, if 40 found that out. About 6 months ago, I went into a total shock. I thought, he M39 loved me because he tells me that every day. We have a beautiful family together. 3 beautiful children, 5 comfort and 16 mo beautiful home. Vacation home. We are close to both our families, and everything else is perfect. Chef 35 is a co-worker. If my husband that I know very well. She has been in my home. I have comforted her. When her husband cheated on her, and left her for his new woman, I saw her pain. Little did I know that she would inflict that same pain on me a few months later. I saw her nudes on his phone. Talk about their hookups on Messenger. She isn't even beautiful. She is disgusting, pathetic and miserable. I know I'm being a disgusting Miss Andrews here, but I can't help myself. What does she have that I don't? He disgusts me very much. He is pathetic and stupid. My respect for him is gone. I have chosen to pretend that I don't know I love my life, and I'll be damned if I share my children and not be able to see them every day of their lives. Not him nor her deserve me separating from my babies, my home, my family, my comfortable life and my safety. Sometimes I think he knows that I know. When he looks at me and asks me to come back to him, when he asks where I'm in my thoughts, it feels like your body is here, but your mind is 1,000 miles away. I don't answer him. He starts to argue. Sometimes it feels like he is doing it to provoke a reaction out of me. But I never answer or engage until he gets tired and leaves me alone. I never initiate anything with him. And when he has me, I just let him, and I refuse to let him pleasure me. In the beginning, he complained that I am distant and cold, and that I want him to use protection. I told him I stopped using BC, so he has to wear protection. His complaining stopped when I told him that it's either this or nothing. 6 months later, I am mostly at peace with my life. Still a lot of ups and downs, but the downs are getting fewer and further apart. Today was a down, so I needed to vent. The part of my heart and thoughts that were occupied with my husband were suddenly empty, and I have found out that I'm pretty good at filling the void with other things, new hobbies, and even more quality time with my babies and loved ones. All is well. Relevant comments. Commenter. 1. It seems you already emotionally checked out and really just staying for the kids and the life that you have. I hope you find peace for the life you chose. Commenter. 2. It does. Exactly like my mum did 20-odd years ago. And as a child and now adult from that experience, it is best to just leave. The resentment my mum now holds is almost sickening, and I have no idea how to have a healthy relationship because of it. Commenter 3. Is he the breadwinner? Girl, you have many options, especially with proof of the affair. You'd be surprised how many men don't fight for their children. I think you staying and distancing yourself got yourself through a lot of hurt that would have come if you just separated. Talk to a therapist if it will help, but don't teach your kids. This is the type of love they should settle for. This is why so many of us are messed up in the head and allow other people to mistreat them. There's so much life and love in the world. Reply, he is the main breadwinner. Yes, we had a fight about a month ago. Or not a fight, more of him complaining that I'm distant and neglectful. And he asked me what I wanted and kept asking and pestering me. I said I wanted him to leave me and give me my children. I would leave everything else to him. He was stunned. For a while then, when he calmed down, he said that I should take this idea out of my head. That I'm crazy if I thought he would abandon the children. Commenter 4. I think you need to get your ducks in a row. He's going to divorce soon. I have a feeling he's going to try blindsiding you. Please be prepared, get a lawyer, and make sure he's not hiding money away to screw you and the kids over. I know it's hard to accept that you'll only get 50-50 custody, but that's better than him lying about you and screwing you over in court and using his money to manipulate the system. There are so many who do that. Please make your exit plan. Gather the evidence of his cheating and important documents for you and the kids, and be ready to leave when he decides to blow everything up. Did he ever ask why she couldn't come over anymore? Did she ever ask? Do you have a support system? Friends or family you can speak with? I also think you need a better therapist because this one isn't teaching you how to cope properly. You're still in so much pain right now. Reply, he won't divorce. Not for her, and not for anyone. He has a lot to lose in case of a divorce, even more than me. I don't read their conversations anymore, but he has no feelings for her. If he chooses to divorce for other reason, then it makes no difference if he or I do it. No, he didn't ask me why she isn't allowed in my home anymore, and he never talked about her again. He asked her, though, if she had done something or told me something. They speculated about it, and he told her if I found out in any way, he will never talk to her again. She said that it was unfair because maybe I would find out another way. But he told her that it didn't matter how. If I did, he will never speak or see her again. So I don't think she will ever bother me as long as she wants him. She will not want this to come out. Anyway, if they give me a few more years, I would be very happy. When the children are a bit older, he can leave me for her, or a trash can for all I care. Commenter 5. If he comes out and asks you if you know, what would you do? Make a deal for the kids? Reply, I won't lie. I will tell him that I know, that I don't want shared custody. And that's why I don't want a divorce. I don't think he will, though. G is probably as scared as I'm that this will come tumbling down. Commenter 6. I feel like this other woman knows exactly what she is doing. She knows what it feels like to be cheated on. She knows the hurt and devastation. She wanted to destroy someone else's happiness, as someone whose spouse cheated. I could never cause that same pain to another woman. My ex left me for that other woman, left me with 2 small children. Funny thing, she hated me. She would tell my kids horrible lies about me. I had never met this woman, never spoke to her. I never understood why she had so much hate. They married and divorced my daughter. And her daughter are still friends. I adore this girl and love her son. I wouldn't dream of saying one cross word about her mom. She mentioned to her mom that her son really likes me and she spouted off about me being a horrible person. She told my daughter. I told my mom that she is not allowed to talk her about me. She said that I was a nice lady who never said anything about her. I couldn't believe that she stood up for me. I hope you find your peace. Reply. It takes 2 to tango. She might wanted to inflict her pain on a happy, unsuspecting woman, just to feel better about herself, just to feel that this doesn't only happen to her, but a good man would not have fallen for this. He would have turned her down. I hate her, but he is the one who destroyed my happiness. She can't have children, and her husband's new woman has given birth to their first child. I think she wanted to take out her hurt on a mother, because in her mind her husband cheated, because she couldn't conceive. He cheated because he is a bad person. She will never get it. Final update. Hi everyone. I didn't expect that I needed to make an update about my post because I really only ever wanted to vent because nobody knows my situation, and I need an outlet. Sorry about that. BTW, I have some news anyway, and mostly they're based on your comments about me needing to protect my ass in case my husband got bored and left me. I have never been worried before because I basically own half of everything, legally speaking, but I started to think of worst-case scenario situations. Anyway, Friday, my husband had made me dinner and brought me flowers and chocolate. He said he wanted to make it a night for the 2 of us because he felt that we were pulling apart. Kids were sleeping and he wanted me and then got upset because it wasn't how he imagined the evening would go and accused me of not loving him or our family anymore. I got really angry when accused me of not loving my family, when they're all I have left to give me love and hope. I snapped at him that I didn't feel safe with him anymore, and he full well knew why I had become this way. You know the reason why. He was shocked and looked at me without saying anything, and then just sat silent on his end of the sofa for the rest of the evening. Before bed he asked me to tell him how I would feel safe again, and to tell him what I wanted him to do. He went to bed. I stayed up all night and made a list of demands. I want a post-nuptial agreement where I get my house and my summer house. I become a partner at his company's at 50%. I don't know how these things work since I won't be buying in, but this is for him to fix. I'm not interested in management, just that I have my half and the passive income. I want him to get a vasectomy. We were planning 4 children before all this, but I don't want that anymore, so he should have a vasectomy. I want him to always wear condoms with me, or never bother to touch me again. I will not even tolerate complaining about that part. Also, I want biannual STI tests this morning. I sent him a text with these demands. I know it is silly to send someone you live with a text, but I didn't want to fumble with my words and forget details. I didn't want him to see me cry or being visibly emotional. I just couldn't take him trying to console me. Just the thought of him feeling sorry for me makes me sick. But also, I didn't want to forget anything, and I wanted it to be in writing. He read it on the breakfast table, and he didn't say anything. We continued the day as normal, and when the children were in bed we had our dinner, and he said, "About your demands, I agree." I told him to start on Monday with realizing my list. He agreed, so I guess since many of you asked me to take measurements and have a backup plan, this is what I could come up with. And it did help. I woke up today a little bit less anxious. I don't know how long we can keep this up, but I hope until I feel safe to leave my babies in his care. Maybe when they're all in school. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. Well, at least you'll know when Au finds out. She is going to act a fool. Reply. I wanted to demand that he cut cooperation with the company he hires where she works as a consultant. But then more than 10 people would be affected. It didn't sit right with me. Plus it wouldn't make them not see each other. And I honestly don't care. I just want peace and to feel safe. Commenter 2. You should demand that none of them ever comes close to your family. And sure as hell not into your home ever again. Reply. I already told him that she wasn't allowed in my home anymore. That was in the beginning when I found out. Unfortunately, I think he has brought her to my home the first time. When I was visiting my brother, I think it happened in my home. I will never forgive him for that. Commenter 3. Speak to an attorney and have them draw up the paperwork for the first and second demand. Reply. I am making him the appointment for the vasectomy. Tomorrow, this is the most important thing. TBH. Commenter 4. Get a nanny cam. Or nanny cams to watch the doors and see if he brings someone home when you're not around. I'm absolutely baffled that he simply accepts all that, without a single word about what's going on. Like, nothing, just rug sweeping and acting as if he wouldn't have destroyed your heart, family, marriage, betrayed you and your kids in the worst way possible. Because even though he cheated on you, he lies to his kids and betrays them too. I guess he's teaching them what's right and wrong. Or does he openly teach them to cheat, lie, hurt others? I know you as a SAHM do the majority of the parenting. Don't want to undermine that for a second. He's one of their 2 most important role models when it comes to morality. Never mentioned that he crushed their mom's heart and disrespected her to no end. And that's what he does? This will blow up into his face eventually, and I can't imagine he's dumb enough to not to know that. Reply. He won't be bringing her to my home anymore because he texted her that he felt sick about it. They meet up at her apartment instead. I kind of understand why he isn't bringing it up. I wouldn't if I had done something this horrid. He destroyed everything beautiful. We had commenter 5. I hope the hubby reads this and files for divorce. I get asking for a vasectomy, but as a demand. EF that noise. She's saving her body in the event they break up, that she can still have kids that way. The marriage is over. Don't give up fertility and money to save it, dude. Just get out. Reply. I think he even liked the idea of vasectomy, to tell you the truth. He probably thought now he can do whatever without any consequences. In a form of child support, I don't know. We have always talked about vasectomy after we are done having children, so it wasn't a new concept. Only difference is that we wanted 4 children, but now we have 3. I think that both me and him thought 3 were enough, even before all this, when we got out youngest, because it turned out to be a lot more than we thought. Stories number 6. I 29F broke up with my partner 30M after a surprise party. I'm looking to see how others would have reacted to this situation. For context, I've been dating my now ex for 5 months. Things were mostly smooth except the little things that were becoming consistent. He would often change, delay, and cancel plans last minute for a variety of reasons. He often knew things would change, but didn't let me know until right before we were to meet up. He was 30 min late to our first date. I'm a person who really values their time and requires a bit of planning. I have been understanding, forgiving and flexible to his ever-changing timeline. I did bring up several times that if this became consistent, it would be a problem. Then I told him that it would be a complete deal-breaker if he canceled big plans. He always promised to make it up to me, but never did, and he never changed. Well, that time came. He was away for work for a month with minimal to no contact due to the nature of his work. We had planned to rejoice the night he came back. It started off with him saying he'd come straight to my place. Then he said he needed to drop off stuff and get clothes at his place. He lives with his family. A few minutes later he calls me to tell me he's staying to have dinner with his parents. I told him that it was upsetting because I had dinner waiting for him. His first question was to ask what it was. Then he texts me to tell me he won't be long, and insisted he'd come over even after I said not to worry about it. Right now I'm waiting. And waiting. I get a call but couldn't answer right away, but received a text stating that his family had a surprise party for him and that he wasn't coming at all after all. No invite, no acknowledgement of the hurt, and a vague non-committal plan to come over first thing tomorrow. That was it for me. I waited a whole month for him and planned several days in advance to have a nice dinner. Cleaned my apartment top to bottom, shaved, got dolled up for nothing. I called him out and told him that it was weird his family planned a surprise party, knowing we had plans, and didn't even bother to invite me. He started backpedaling and saying I was invited, and that he wanted to see me. I stood my ground and told him that I couldn't do this anymore. I stayed firm in my decision, and had him pick up his things the next day. I wonder if I was too harsh in not having a more in-depth conversation about the issue. Although, my decision would have been the same. TLDR broke up with my BF because he was consistently flaky. He knew my boundary but decided to disrespect it. What would you have done? Was I too harsh? Comments. Commenter 1. He doesn't respect you or your time. His lack of awareness of you and your valuable time is enough for me to also break up with someone. You aren't his priority. Reply. Thanks for the clarity. I knew that this was the case, but was letting my feelings cloud my judgment. Commenter 2. I dated someone like this. It never gets better. In fact, I'm proud of you for recognizing the disrespect and neglect so early, and doing something about it. He took you for granted. You were never a priority. Good riddance. You now have the opportunity to find a real man. Commenter 3. His behavior shows what is important to him. And it's not you. Genuine congratulations on standing up for yourself and doing what's best for your emotional health. I hope you find someone who treats you with the respect and care you deserve. Reply. Thank you. It's been hard. Setting and honoring my boundaries is a relatively new thing for me. Didn't learn I could have any until I started therapy 4 years ago. Reply. Commenter 3. All the best. And I hope therapy helped you discover many strengths in yourself. Commenter 4. Honestly, you should have left 15 minutes after your first date was supposed to start, and saved yourself a lot of grief. Stories number 11. Aita, for telling my parents they were deserved to be kicked out of my sister's wedding, so my 37F, brother Mike, 35M, is a knob, always has been, and always will be. He has been babied to the point of uselessness by our mom and dad, and that's made him an entitled slob. When he was younger he showed promise playing rugby, which had my mom and dad believing he was gonna be a superstar. The problem was, though, that he never had the work ethic to fully fulfill his potential. However, this meant that he was the golden boy of the family, and he could do wrong in my parents' eyes. He was a bully at school, which they brushed off as other kids making up lies. But he was an even bigger bully at home to our younger sister, Kelly, 31F. He would constantly prank here, which basically meant he would do anything he could embarrass her, including things like pulling her dress up in front of the whole family at a wedding when she was 15. Mom and dad just said it was siblings being siblings, but the rest of the family were mortified by his behavior. I did try and stick up for my sister, and it worked to a certain extent, but after I went away to uni, there wasn't much I could do as mom and dad just don't listen to anyone. It got so bad that when she was 18, my sister gave up going to her dream university, St. Andrews, and instead moved to London to go to the Imperial College, London. This was a huge shock to all of us, as she had been talking about St. Andrews since she started high school at 11. When I asked why, she said that St. Andrews was too close to home, and she would be expected to go back home more often. But if she went to London, she would only have to go home for Christmas. This broke my heart. After she left, she did exactly that. The only time she was home was Christmas, and when I got married. This really annoyed Mum and Dad, as they said she was abandoning the family. I kept my mouth shut and just let them whine occasionally, as I didn't want an argument. After graduating from uni, my parents expected her to move back home. But she didn't. She got a job working in southern England and stayed down there. We are from Scotland for reference. 6 years ago, Kelly met a great guy, Jake 30. The day she met him, she called me gushing about him. And I've honestly never heard her speak about anyone the way she does him. I've met him several times when I've gone down to visit Kelly, and he's great. Good looking, funny, great job. His family are lovely, and most importantly, he treats Kelly like she hung the moon. It's very cute. After she met him, she cut down how much she came home even more, as she spent the first Christmas with his family. And then the pandemic happened, so she ended up not coming home for 3 years. Her first Christmas home, Mike started his usual bullshit, trying to be their center of attention. When it didn't work out as well as he wanted, as most of the family were more interested in getting to know Jake, he then tried to prank Kelly. He got a big bowl of water and was going to pour it over her. Jake saw what was happening and stepped in front of Kelly, telling Mike to not even think about it. Side note, Jake is 6'3" and has been doing martial arts since he was 4, so he can be very intimidating when needed. Mum and Dad tried to play it off as a harmless prank, but Jake was having none of it. Mike started whining about it just being a prank, and Jake told him that if he pranked Kelly one more time, he would prank Jake by putting his foot up his arse and his fist down his throat. Kelly and Jake left about an hour later, but after that, Mike, Mum and Dad all had an issue with Jake. Kelly hasn't been back home since. That leads us to now. Kelly and Jake are getting married. They sent out invites in February for August, however. They didn't invite Mike. Mum and Dad are obviously incensed by this and had a huge argument with Kelly. They threatened not to go, and Kelly just said no problem. She would get Granddad to walk her down the aisle. I went around to their house on Saturday with my kids. Immediately my mum started complaining about Kelly and the wedding. I sat and listened for a while before I'd had enough. I asked her what did she actually expect. Her and Dad have allowed Mike to be the golden child and get away with everything. Because of that, he can't keep a relationship. Due to him thinking everyone should do everything for him, he can't hold down a job because every job is beneath him, and he still living at home with zero prospects in life. The man-child is a bully who I don't trust to be around my children unsupervised. He bullied Kelly for most of her teen years, and her only escape was to move over 400 miles away and never come home. My mum got very quiet and then asked me to leave. A few hours later, my dad called going mad because I'd upset my mum and was taking the side of an ungrateful little girl instead of my parents, who gave me everything. This started a huge argument between me and him where I told him he'd been a crap dad to Kelly and didn't deserve to walk her down the aisle. I've just had enough. But now I've got extended family members telling me I've gone too far, as my mum is barely speaking to anyone and keeps crying. My granddad said it was about time I told them off, but my grandma is upset by all the arguing, so Aita for telling my parents that they sucked a parents and deserved to be kicked out of my sister's wedding. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, NTA. If they can't stand the truth, they need to hibernate. I vote, Grandpa walks her down the aisle regardless of who attends. Reply. My sister isn't changing her mind. They aren't going to the wedding no matter what. She only invited them as she thought it was the right thing to do in the first place. So, Granddad will be walking her no matter what. Commenter 2, NTA. Your parents failed both of your siblings, and it's going to get worse when they realize your sister won't invite them to her events, and when they realize that their son will become homeless after they pass. Honestly, I'm shocked your brother hasn't been arrested yet. Reply. He has multiple times for getting into fights when drunk. Nothing ever come of it. Though, Commenter 3, NTA. Truth hurts, and that's why your mother is so upset. About time someone said something. Reply, I think this is true. She isn't arguing that I'm wrong. She's just went quiet and has spoken to me since I think my words hit her hard. And that's why she's so upset. Commenter 4. Your mom's tears are her own doing. She ignores her daughter being treated like shit for years, and then instead of owning it, she tries to play the whole, woe is me, I'm crying so you can't possibly be upset with me. It's actually pathetic, and your sister is better off far away from your family. Maybe you could join her, and also get away from the toxicity. NTA reply. I've already said to my husband that I don't want to be around my family for Christmas, so we are going to his. If they all carry on, then I'm going NC fully. Did someone bully Mike prior to his bullying Kelly? Reply. It's never happened. He was always the bully. Even when he was 4-5, he was moved class as he was bullying one of his classmates, OP, on her kids being around her parents. Reply. My kids have never been around my parents without either myself or my husband, as I know they would let my brother be around them unsupervised. They won't be going anywhere near my parents for a long while. They don't like going to my parents' house anyway. Commenter 5. Have they pampered and spoiled Mike because he's the only boy? NTA bless you and Jake for being in Kelly's corner. Reply. My dad loves rugby. It's pretty much all he talks about, and he is down at the rugby club every chance he gets. So it's more about him having talent in the sport, which he did. He was told by scouts when he was 13 that he could be in the back row for Scotland one day. He was that good. The favoritism started after that, as that made him special to mom and dad. However, he didn't have the work ethic and couldn't keep up with play as he wasn't fit enough, so he got dropped. Update 1. Hi all. That post took off a lot more than I thought it would. There was way too many comments for me to respond to, but I tried to. Read every one of them. I was asked for an update. So here it is. There were a few things that came up repeatedly, so I'll address them first. The pranks only started after I had left and gone to uni. He would say things to Kelly, and I would have. I'll go back at him when we were younger. But it wasn't anything more than that, until after I'd left home, so there wasn't anything I could really do to stop it. I did speak to our parents, but they're useless. Second thing was about my kids. I didn't bring my kids around them very much as they didn't like going to my parents' house. They said it was boring and they don't like Mike. However, after all the comments I got about this, I sat them down and asked them again. For my daughter, it really is just that she finds it boring and says that Mike is a weirdo. My son, however, said that he doesn't like being around my dad as he keeps trying to make him play rugby. I have heard these comments and told my dad to drop it, but he would still make the comments occasionally. I had no idea that it was upsetting my son though, so this surprised me. My son doesn't like sports, be it watching or playing. He's very much like his dad in that regard. He's a Pokemon kid, playing online, and goes every Thursday evening to play in a tournament at our local card shop. So rugby is an absolute no-go for him. The third thing was about security at the wedding. I spoke to Kelly and Jake said that 2 of his groomsmen are police officers who are aware of the situation, so that won't be a problem. Lastly, there was a lot of comments about Mike being the golden child. For a bit more backstory, he wasn't really the favorite until his talent in rugby came to light. After that, he was special, and had to be treated that way. I think he was seen as mom and dad's way of being special themselves within the family, as they had such a super talented child. Anyway, today, I decided to sit down with my parents and tell them I needed a break from them. When I got there, my dad immediately wanted me to apologize to my mom, but I said that wasn't going to happen. There was a bit of back and forth between him and I, until my mom stepped in and asked why I was there. If not to apologize, I told them that I'd spoken to Kelly, and she didn't want them at the wedding at all, that they needed to stay away and respect her decision. They weren't happy but said they wouldn't go where they weren't wanted. I then told them I wanted space until after the wedding, as I couldn't keep being around them and keeping my mouth shut. I thought that space would be good for all of us. My mom wasn't happy and started on about seeing my kids. I told them the truth. My kids hated coming to their house and told my dad exactly why my son doesn't want to be around him. He got upset by this and said that rugby would be good for him. I shut that down and said I'm not going to force my son to do something he does want to and something I know he will hate. I also told him that if I hear him mention it around my son again, then he won't see my son again. Right now they will only be seeing my kids at family events, so I'm hoping that it won't be a problem. I then asked them what their long-term plan was with Mike. Are they going to keep things the way they are until they're 90? and Mum will still be making all his meals. What happens when they're gone? Who will look after him because it won't be me? What happens if they get ill? Who will look after them? Mike is incapable, Kelly lives down south, and I plan on moving back to my husband's hometown 3 hours away once the kids have left home. So I can't do it. They just looked at me blankly. I really don't think that they had ever even thought about any of that before I told them they had set Mike up to fail, and now they needed to deal with it. I also told them I knew that they were leaving everything to him in their will, but that with how they have babied Mike, he would blow through that money in less than a year. And then what I could see the panic in my mom's eyes when I said that she either hadn't thought about it, or she thought I would look after him, which she now knows isn't going to happen. I also think she was shocked that I knew about their will, after me telling them what low contact with me was going to look like going forward, and them not being happy about it. I left. Hopefully I've given them a lot to think about. I will check in with them from time to time, but that's all right now. I'm going to visit Kelly in the next couple of weeks, so I'm looking forward to that. My extended family have also backed off after I sent them all a text saying if they were so concerned about my mum, then they could be her support system and deal with Mike the same way Kelly and I have had to for years. Not surprisingly, none of them wanted to. Otherwise, I'm going to just try and get on with things as normal. Thanks for the NTA verdict and all the advice. It opened my eyes to a few things that I'd been brushing off. Relevant comments, OP on her parents' finances. And if Mike would get the house reply. My parents don't have much in savings, so Mike will sell the house as quickly as possible. Go into the cheapest rented accommodation he can find and blow the money on FIFA, nights out, and clothes. He will be broke within a year. He racked up $5,000 on credit cards with FIFA packs before, so most of the money will go there. They don't have much savings, but they have the house. They've said a few things through the years that indicated he will get that as me and Kelly have our own houses. It's something I accepted a long time ago. How did OOP know about her parents' wills? Reply: it was an educated guess mostly. They have been hinting for years about myself and Kelly having houses so we don't need theirs, but Mike doesn't. They only really have the house, so it makes sense that he would get it after the comments they've made. Commenter 1. So I read your original post. Your brother pulled up your sister's dress at a wedding, like exposing her when she was 15, and he was 18, 19? Was he an adult for most of the torment? I don't blame your children and anyone for not wanting to be near such a creep, and I'm just sad your other family are cowards, and never told off Mike and your parents for his behavior and their coddling. Reply: the pranks started when he would have been 15-ish. He was 19 when he pulled up her dress. Commenter 2. Did I miss something in this, or the original post? Is Mike disabled in some way? Why on earth would OP's parents assume he'll just keep living with them until they die and then need someone to look after him? Most parents with failure to launch children they keep sponsoring seem to assume that something will magically happen to make them grow up and act like functional adults any day now. Reply: no, he isn't disabled at all. My parents just keep saying he's finding himself. Has Mike ever held a job before? Reply: yes, but none that have ever lasted more than 6 months. He gets one when he wants something expensive that our parents can't afford, like a PS5, and when he has enough money for it, then he quits. That's if he's not already been fired. He current doesn't have a job and isn't looking. The longest he's had one was 6 months. His sister said he's weird because he spent do anything. Just sits in his room playing video games. New update. Hi all. Sorry I went MIA, but I've been super busy. Not with this issue, but just with life in general. So Kelly got married last weekend and everything went without a hitch. Our parents and Mike didn't even try to attend, but I know that Mum did try and contact her a few times before the wedding via other family member. Kelly wasn't interested, and made that clear by not responding and threatening the family member that they would be uninvited as well. That put an end to it. Mike is still a drain on society according to a cousin of ours. I don't know firsthand, as I've not been in contact with him at all. I've spoken to Mum and Dad once since the last post, and they haven't changed, so I don't have the energy to deal with them. My kids don't miss them one bit either, so it's not been a problem keeping the kids away from them right now. I'm just going to get on with my life, with my husband and kids. I've been talking to Kelly a lot more since all of this, which is a huge positive to come out of it. Sorry that there were no dramatics, like Mike and our parents trying to storm the wedding, but everything went smoothly. Thanks for all the comments and advice in my previous posts. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. I am delighted that everything went well for Kelly. She deserves it, but I'm dying to know what happens when life finally bitch slaps Mike and your parents. Your mum will crack first, but she won't stand a chance against your dad and brother. Keep a healthy distance and have a lovely, lovely life without them. Reply, I'm completely NC with them right now, but I find out little bits here and there from other family members. Dad is adamant that I will come around and Mum is playing the sympathy card. I don't think they understand that they're pushing me away even more by acting like they are. My life is so much simpler and less stressful without them in it. Commenter 2. I'm so happy for Kelly and Jake, and your big shiny spine standing up to your folks like that. So proud of you both putting up and holding firm to those boundaries. It's hard. Really hard. Commenter 3. You've done what you can. You've warned your parents about the consequences of enabling a man-child, but they didn't listen. They doubled down. Let them live with their own misery. You, Kelly, and your children are better off without them. Stories. Number 8. My wife told me I'd never fill her up like her ex, and I don't know if I can live with that anymore. Is this worth divorcing over? I don't even know how to start this. My wife 30F and I 30M have been together for a decade, married for 3 years. We've built a whole life together. We even have a beautiful child. But there's this wound that never healed, and I think it might destroy everything. After our child was born, my wife suffered from severe postpartum depression. It was hell for both of us. She resented me, pushed me away, said cruel things. I kept telling myself it was the depression talking, not her. Eventually, she went to the doctor and got on medication, and things got so much better. But during that phase, one insult she said I don't think I'll ever be able to get over. You'll never be able to fill me up like Josh did. Josh was her only ex living in a different country. That sentence kind of ripped me apart. I swallowed it down, buried it. Told myself I could focus on our child, on healing, on the love I thought we still had. When she got better, she apologized 1,000 times, cried, begged me to believe she only said it to cut me as deep as possible, not because it was true. I told myself I forgave her. It's been 2 years, 2 years of stability, 2 years of trying to pretend it didn't matter. We've gone on dates, vacations. My wife's admitted she's the happiest she's ever been in her life. But lately, the sadness and anger have started creeping back. I keep hearing those words in my head. They echo when we're intimate. They echo when I look at her. They echo when I look at myself in the mirror. When my wife asked why I was feeling down latently, I finally told her what she says still haunts me, and she broke down crying again, shocked I'd carried it for this long. But her tears don't heal me. They don't erase it. They don't make me feel whole again. And now I'm here asking strangers on the internet, is this worth ending my marriage over? Because it feels insane for even considering divorce over just words. But I know I will never be able to unhear that sentence. And I don't know if I can live a lifetime with it chained to my heart. I know a divorce would shock my wife, but I deserve to find true happiness too, with someone who loves me completely. Comments. Commenter 1 begged me to believe she only said it to cut me as deep as possible, not because it was true. Honestly, that's even worse. I would rather it was a true statement of fact. If this was just an insult she devised because it would deliver the most pain possible to you, is a level of sociopath I could not continue being with. Words are not just words. Words leave deep scars, and some words are unforgivable. She said something that will live with you both as an insult, and as an example of the darkness that lives just below the surface of her. You don't deserve to live with a person that makes you feel like that just for the sake of a child. That child should see a father who is happy and content, not one that lives forever resenting the words that his wife could lash out at him with. Commenter 2. DNA test that kid. Just in case, it's really weird to throw Josh at you when he is supposedly 13 years out of the picture. You know the name of her best ever and it isn't you. Reply, Josh is her only ex. They were together for only a few months in college before he left for abroad permanently. Commenter 3. Don't know if this will help, but some women literally try to say the meanest thing possible in order to make the person feel as bad as they currently do. It has no meaning other than to try to make you feel as bad as they do. Stories number 9. I hate that homeschooling is becoming more common. I don't know if it's just my family and their friends, or my area, but everyone is homeschooling. Now I have a couple dislikes about homeschooling. Why do they feel more qualified to teach their kids than actual teachers, who go to college and study things like childhood development? Just because they birthed the child, where are these children getting socialization from? Public school has set routines, safe resources to go to for help, like nurses and guidance counselors. I see so many adults complain about not knowing how to make friends, usually because they just work and then go home. Where does a child make friends if not school? I feel like extracurricular activities are not enough. The use of AI is becoming scarily more common. I worry that ChatGPT is going to be teaching the kids more than their own parents. It's used so often in my family. When someone said, "Should we ask what ChatGPT thinks?" I was bewildered and asked, "Can't we just use our eyes and form an opinion ourselves?" If your home life isn't perfect, your child has no escape. They don't get to go to school and just have time to focus on that again. I used to dread going home. I can't imagine always being home in a toxic household. Edit I forgot 55. I've also heard the "I'm worried about school shootings" argument, and I really don't understand that either, because we know shootings are not limited to schools. Churches, concerts, malls, etc. get shot up. Are you never taking your child anywhere? I'm sorry, I understand being afraid, but I don't think it's a valid reason. I will admit I am biased. I had a rough home life and public school was my 8 hours of freedom. I will also say public school had its horrible moments too, like harassment and bullying. But I also made friends I would have never met otherwise, had teachers I still think of years later. Rant inspired by my unmediated bipolar ChatGPT-loving sister, who's homeschooling 4 kids, 2 of which are not hers. Why is she trusted to be doing that? I have no idea. One of the children is autistic and really benefits from routines. I worry about him not having those routines anymore. I'm frustrated because anything I say about this topic is automatically thrown out the window because I don't have kids. Also obligatory. I know there's good homeschooling parents out there and people with good homeschooled experiences. Please don't hate me. These are just my angry, annoyed, confused opinions. Y'all acting like I titled this post. I hate everyone who homeschools their kids. I didn't. I never said that. Comments. Commenter 1. I was homeschooled until 7th grade. And honestly, it kind of fucked up my whole young life. By the time I got into 7th grade, I had no idea how to socialize with other kids. Commenter 2. These comments are not it. Not everyone is qualified to teach homeschooling. Especially a lot of today's parents. It seems like it is about controlling your kids rather than giving them the proper education they deserve. Commenter 3. As a professional educator, I think homeschooling can be amazing, but in practice it's horrible. I have seen great homeschool communities with awesome parents and hired professionals so the kids and parents are kept in check, and that do 3 to 4 meaningful outings a week for socialization outside of playdates, including clubs. I honestly think that group got more socialization with homeschooling than a traditional school environment. The vast majority of homeschooled kids are isolated and not learning what they need to think of the students who graduate high school and the low bar that is set there. This is lower. I had multiple students in the year of our Lord 2019 that had not ever personally used a non-TV screen device in 10th grade. As a CS teacher, that was a hard one. Maybe the worst of it, though, is in distance learning. Distance learning can be great, but I have others who work in that field tell me that so many parents and students consider it homeschooling. No, you have a schedule and a full set of teachers. You are in school. When idiots say they want school choice, those are the schools they would choose, then use their kids as free labor all day for their shitty business instead of doing schoolwork. Commenter 4. My partner worked at a tutoring center, and the number of conservative parents who were homeschooling their kids but borderline withholding the ability to read was disturbing. They adamantly only wanted their 16-year-old who's reading at a 4th grade level to only be taught math and science. They're terrified of their kids being able to think for themselves, since that near universally leads to different views than their own. Stories number 10. My husband asked me to co-sign for his dream truck, but he still owes me $8,000 from my inheritance. I'm Emily 33F, married to Jason 35M for 7 years. We've had our ups and downs financially, but last year when my grandma passed, I received a modest inheritance. Around $18,000. I set aside most of it for future house savings, but I also used $8,000 to pay off Jason's high-interest credit card debt. It was suffocating him, and he promised me he'd pay me back over time. No formal timeline, no contract, just trust. Well, it's been a year, and so far, I've gotten exactly $0 back. The truck bombshell yesterday. Jason came home practically bouncing off the walls about this shiny new $55,000 pickup truck he'd seen at the dealership. He went on and on about the lift kit, the leather seats, the towing package. Honestly, I zoned out after the price tag. Then came the kicker. He asked me to co-sign the loan because his credit isn't good enough to get approved on his own. I laughed at first, thinking he was joking. But no, he was dead serious. I told him flat out, I'm not co-signing for a $55,000 truck when you haven't even started paying me back the $8,000 I lent you. He exploded, said I was holding money over his head, that I don't support his dreams, and that a wife should back her husband no matter what. I reminded him we're supposed to be saving for a down payment on a house, and we just bought new appliances on top of that, another car. Payment is the last thing we need. He sulked the rest of the night. Barely spoke to me, slammed doors then, as if that wasn't enough. His mom texted me later saying I was emasculating him and making him feel like less of a man. Now I feel torn. I don't want to crush him, but I also don't want to be a financial idiot. Update 1. 2 weeks later. Wow, I didn't expect this to blow up the way it did, both here and in my real life, thanks to everyone who gave advice, even the tough loved ones. So 2 weeks have passed, and Jason still isn't speaking much to me. He's been acting like a martyr, sighing loudly, refusing to sit near me and sleeping on the couch, because he can't be in the same bed with someone who doesn't believe in him. It's exhausting. But here's where things escalated. I found out Jason went behind my back to the dealership and tried to get financing. A loan he got denied, which I only know because I got a voicemail from the dealership reminding me to stop in and finish the paperwork. That was how I learned my name had been put on some preliminary forms without my consent. I was furious. I confronted him, and he shrugged it off like it wasn't a big deal. Said he knew I'd come around eventually and wanted to speed things up. I told him straight. That was fraud, and if he ever tried it again, I'd walk. That's when he pulled out the nuclear card. If you really loved me, you'd trust me with this. I asked him point blank, how am I supposed to trust you with a $55,000 loan when you can't even pay me back $8,000? He had no answer since then. It's been icy in the house. His mom has called me 3 more times, insisting I'm ruining his spirit. My own mom, meanwhile, told me to stand my ground and that this is a huge red flag. I don't know what's worse, the truck fight itself, or realizing how little respect he has for boundaries. Update 2. 3 months later. So, it's been a wild ride. A lot has changed since my first post. Jason never dropped the truck dream. He kept bringing it up, kept sulking, and eventually we ended up in marriage counseling, because I couldn't deal with the constant passive aggressiveness. Our counselor asked him why the truck was so important, and Jason admitted it wasn't just about the truck. It was about his image. He said he feels like a failure because all his friends have nicer vehicles, and he's embarrassed driving his old beat-up sedan. That was honestly heartbreaking to hear. But at the same time, I couldn't ignore the fact that his solution to feeling inadequate was to dump us into massive debt. The counselor asked him what message he thought he was sending me by demanding I co-sign while still owing me $8,000. He tried to brush it off, but eventually admitted that he didn't really consider the inheritance as mine since we're married. He thought of it as our money. That was a major crack in the foundation for me. I explained that if he viewed my inheritance as his, then why did I still feel like a bank he owed nothing to? Why did he only see it as ours when it benefited him? He didn't have much to say after that session. Final update. 6 months later. Reddit, I'm writing this with a mix of sadness and relief. Jason and I are no longer together. Things came to a breaking point after he secretly applied for financing again, this time using my social security number without my permission. The dealership flagged it, and I got a fraud alert from my bank. That was it. That was my line. I told him I couldn't stay married to someone who disrespected me, my money, and my identity. Like that, I contacted a lawyer, and within 2 months, I filed for divorce. My family has been incredibly supportive. His family? Not so much. His mom left me a voicemail calling me a gold digger for not sharing my inheritance with her son. The irony is almost laughable. The divorce isn't fully finalized yet, but I'll walk away clean. No truck debt, no more enabling his irresponsibility. As for the $8,000, I've written it off mentally. I may never see it again, but honestly, the peace of mind I feel right now is worth more than that money. I've started fresh. I'm renting a small apartment, saving diligently for a house, and for the first time in years I feel financially and emotionally safe. If I learned anything from this, it's that money isn't just about dollars. It's about respect, trust, and shared values. Jason wanted me to back his dreams, but he never respected mine, and now I finally get to dream for myself, TLDR. Husband owed me $8,000 from my inheritance, but wanted me to co-sign a $55K truck loan. He sulked, guilt-tripped me, and even tried applying with my info behind my back. After repeated boundary crossing, I filed for divorce. I lost $8,000, but gained my freedom and peace. Stories number 11. Adult daughter lives for free with us, wants us to pay to upgrade Wi-Fi for her. We love our daughter, and we have a good relationship. She had a breakup and moved home in July temporarily. 6 months? 12 months? We are more than happy to help out, and she can stay as long as she needs to, but she is complaining about our Wi-Fi coverage and how it's affecting her ability to do her job remotely. She can be pretty frugal and has asked us to pay for an extender that will cover her bedroom. We said, no way, after laughing a little bit. To be fair, our AT&T Wi-Fi has always been spotty at either end of our large home, so we can understand her issue. However, she's a grown woman with a good job making good money and has significant savings, significantly ahead of where others her age are. 28. 30. My wife and I are retired empty nesters, and our Wi-Fi works perfectly well for us. She has other options to connect, plenty of room in the finished basement, but doesn't like to work there due to furniture. 1 room or lack of windows, other 2 rooms. We can afford to do whatever we want with our house, but find it off-putting that she wouldn't just rent the extender and be done with it. We don't charge rent. We pay for groceries. She has dietary restrictions, so she does buy some of her own as well. And we cook or provide dinner 6 days a week. She cooks 1 dinner a week. We believe her expecting us to pay for this, since it's your house, is over the top, mind you. We're also paying for a family vacation, flights, hotel, rental car, attractions, park tickets, meals in a month. We get that children get used to parents paying for everything, but this one has us alternately laughing out loud and scratching our heads. She refuses to pay anything for the extender on principle, and so I guess it's on principle that we're refusing. Are we the A's? Comments. Commenter 1 NTA. As an adult daughter living with my parents, fuck that. I pay rent, plus my share of all household bills, plus my own food. What fucking principle? Commenter 2 NTA. You sound like great parents, but you may have spoiled her just a wee bit. That's some top-tier levels of entitlement. Commenter 3. My adult kid moved home and wanted upgraded Wi-Fi. He said, I'll upgrade it and pay the bill, so he now pays the full bill. He also contributes to other expenses. He's an adult. He understands he's living mortgage and rent-free. He'd never in his wildest dreams expect to be expenses-free on top of that. This is how respectful adults who are not entitled behave. I'd be having a very firm contribute or leave discussion. If I was in your position, commenter 4 NTA, that's something that needs to come out of her pocket, and speaking as an employed adult still living at home, think about requiring some kind of rent from her. It doesn't need to be crazy, but she needs a reminder that this isn't a free ride. Commenter 5. She's a grown woman with a good job making good money and has significant savings. So why is she living at home? Significantly ahead of where others her age are. She's living at home, so no. No, she's not. And she won't even pay for stuff she needs. Stop kidding yourself that she's significantly ahead of anyone. Why did you raise such an entitled and helpless person? NTA for not buying the range extender. But you have some responsibility. For how your daughter turned out, that means you don't just get to take credit for the good parts. Stories number 12. Aita. For not planning anything for Father's Day after my husband ruined my first Mother's Day. I'm 987% sure that I am not the here, but I'm wrong. I'm willing to admit it and learn from my mistakes. Our little boy will be one late this summer. So this was the first Mother's Day and Father's Day for both me and my husband. My husband asked what I wanted for Mother's Day. I didn't want anything big or expensive. What I asked for is for husband to get up with the little guy and get him fed while I pumped and chilled. Breakfast in bed. Just toast, scrambled eggs and coffee, for us to take the little guy to the zoo for the first time. This was the main thing I was looking forward to. Go to my fave taco place for dinner. Between morning and afternoon naps we have about 4 hours of awake time. The zoo is about 30 minutes away, so I had figured if we left as soon as he got up from his nap and ate, we'd have a couple hours at the zoo, and worst case he could sleep in the car on the way home. We took my mom and my MIL out to brunch the prior weekend to celebrate them. His mom on Saturday and my mom on Sunday. I also got them each a thoughtful little present and flowers to celebrate their first Mother's Day as grandparents. I arranged everything and told my mom and Mel that we'd be celebrating on the actual day with just our little family, and sent them a group chat which included husband, my dad and Fiel, just to make sure everyone is on the same page. My Mael is very pushy and overbearing, so I didn't want there to be any surprises or confusion. The Saturday before Mother's Day, Fiel sent my husband a text with a picture of all the mulch he just had delivered and said something like, "Gonna be a busy weekend," or something like that. Apparently he had 300 bags of mulch. They have a big yard with lots of flower beds. That night my MIL called my husband and asked him to come over first thing in the morning to help his dad move the bags of mulch to where they were going to be used. She said since we weren't going to the zoo until after little guy's nap, that husband could go over and help for a couple hours, and then come pick us up to go to the zoo. I was obviously not happy, but she guilted him and said Phil was going to end up hurting himself if he moved all that by himself, and that it's not a big deal and should only take an hour or two. I told him his mom was doing this to try and get us to skip our plans and spend the day with them, but he kept saying it's not a big deal, saying his mom promised it would only take a couple hours. Etcher, I think most people know what happened. Husband went over first thing, which means no breakfast in bed, and I had to get up to feed the little guy. I was kinda pissed, but whatever. Spent time with the little guy then. When he went down for his morning nap, I texted my husband to let him know he should start wrapping things up. Then when little guy woke up 2 hours later, I called husband to tell him I'd be ready to go as soon as I finished feeding the little guy. He told me it was taking longer than he expected, but that he'd hurry. Like an hour and a half later, husband called and said they weren't done, but he was getting ready to come home. It's 15 to 20-minute drive from my house. At that point, we'd missed the window to make it to zoo. So I told him to just stay there and finish and not worry about Mother's Day, since he hadn't done a single thing I asked for. I don't think there was any doubt in his mind how pissed I was. A little later, his mom called and said since we decided not to go to the zoo, that me and little guy should go hang out with her while the boys finished with the mulch. I admit that I was pretty pissy and told her I had no interest in spending time with the people who decided to ruin my first Mother's Day. I ended up staying home and ordering a pizza and binging Netflix. When husband got home, he was all apologetic and asked how he could make it up. I was still pissed and told him he could make it up by not ruining my first Mother's Day. I also told him he should plan on spending Father's Day with his mom and dad, because me and the little guy were going to go celebrate Father's Day with my mom and dad. Since Mother's Day, Mill has been texting and calling, but I've been keeping conversations short and just giving very bland, generic responses. My husband has been apologizing and asking what he can do. But honestly, I don't want to bother. I know it's just a day and we can celebrate any time. like we did with my mom and Mill. But it was my first ever Mother's Day. And it's not like I asked for anything expensive or difficult. The only difficult thing is he's incapable of setting boundaries with his mom, and she's incapable of considering anyone's feelings but her own. This past Saturday he asked if I was still going to my parents', then said he'd like to go with us. I told him he could do whatever he wanted, but since I hadn't done anything for his dad, he might want to go see him, or something. We did both end up going to my parents and spending the day with them. It was actually a nice day. My dad insisted on grilling because of course he did. But the weather ended up being nice, and we spent a lot of time hanging out on their deck playing with the little guy. I'm not sure what, if anything, my husband did for his dad. I know he was getting a lot of texts during the day. I assume from his mom she did send me a snippy text saying it was hurtful to spend the day with my family at the expense of husbands, but I told her she got to spend Mother's Day with her baby boy. So it's only fair that I spend Father's Day with my family. I know my husband was hurt that we didn't acknowledge him for Father's Day, but I told him while we were driving to my parents' house that I'm just matching his energy. I admit that I haven't done anything to de-escalate the drama, but I'm still just so hurt he continues to prioritize his mom's feeling over our little family. This isn't the first time his mom has done crap like this, and I'm just so tired of it. She always oversteps and insists on doing what she wants. I'm doing better at keeping her at arm's length and holding my own boundaries. But my husband is absolutely incapable of it. Comments. Commenter. 1. The 300 bags of mulch could have sat in the driveway until such a time when it wasn't Mother's Day. It's not radioactive. Its mulch could have waited NTA. Commenter 2. Your husband has clearly decided having a pissed-off wife is preferable to having a pissed-off mother. The very first time he knew his dad had bought 300 bags of mulch, holy frick. Does he own Rhode Island or something? Your husband should have said, wish I could help you, but we have plans for Mother's Day. When his mom said it'd only take an hour or two, he should have responded, our plans are all day. The mulch could have waited. ETA. Thank you for the awards. They're such a surprise. Commenter 3. Exactly. Unfortunately, when men are raised by narcissist mothers, they are afraid to draw boundaries. It's why they need help from their wives to do it. I had to tell my husband early in my marriage that if you think I'll stay in a marriage where your mother is allowed to mistreat me, you got another thing coming, bub. I make enough money, I will raise our child by myself. You either grow a backbone and stand up for me and our family first every time, or be prepared to be single again. Now you go speak to your mother about her behavior this week. Or next week we go find a divorce lawyer. My husband got his shit straight. His mom doesn't even call him anymore to make plans. She calls me, which is weird but fine. She sometimes tries passive-aggressive shit, but I know it's because I have the power and she's pissed she doesn't. My family comes first, not her, nor her BS. I'm the bigger dog. She mistook my kindness for weakness. She learned the hard way. Commenter 4. NTA. But, as they say in the Just No Meal sub, you don't have an MIL problem, you have a husband problem. This is only going to continue until he grows a spine. Update. Aita. For not planning anything for Father's Day after my husband ruined my first Mother's Day. I posted here last week. You can find it in my profile if you want the backstory. I wanted to thank everyone. I've had a lot of people asking for an update. So here we go. This weekend the husband and I sat down and talked about everything. I expressed to him how incredibly upset and disappointed I was at how both Mother's Day and Father's Day went down. I really wanted to recognize and celebrate my husband for FD, every bit as much as I hoped he would recognize and celebrate me for MD. He said he knew he shouldn't have gone to his parents on MD, but didn't know what to do since his mom was pressuring him and saying, if his dad got hurt it would be husband's fault. He admitted that he knew he messed up, and has been terrified that I was going to ask for a divorce since. He cut to the chase. I told him that if this is how our life is going to be, I don't want to stay married to him. I explained to him that I realized that while yes, I was upset about what happened on Mother's Day, that isn't what is making me feel this way. That was just the straw that broke the camel's back. This kind of behavior from his mom has been happening since we before got engaged, and has just escalated. This has been happening for years. As someone here suggested, I had listed all the times that I could remember that she had overstepped or just completely ruined. For our freaking honeymoon, she called him twice a day every morning to find out our plans for the day, and then every evening to hear how the day went. Plus, the constant texting, asking for pictures, telling him how much she missed him. I don't know how I thought this was acceptable. She tried to make our wedding about herself, tried to make my pregnancy about herself, tried to take over when we brought our son home, just constantly inserting herself and overstepping. I told him that I don't really want to get divorced right now, but if it's going to happen anyway, I'd rather get divorced now while we can still do it amicably. Because if nothing changes, I'm going to end up so angry and resentful that it would make divorce very contentious, and I don't want that for our son. At this point we were both crying, upset and emotional. So I told him that I'll give him some time to decide what he's going to do, but if I don't see clear effort being made to start, prioritize me and our son, that I'd move forward with the divorce. And the change has to continue. Every time we've fought about this in the past, he's promised he'll change, and sometimes he has, but then his mom pulls him back into her orbit. If we are to stay married, these are some of the things I'm insisting on in no particular order. We each own the relationship with our own parents. That means I'm not planning anything for his parents anymore. No cards, no presents, no brunches or parties, no pictures, nothing. If his parents reach out to me, I'm going to redirect them to him. I'm not entertaining or visiting with his parents when he's not around. I'm not taking our son over to theirs by myself, and if they drop by, I'm not inviting them in unless my husband is there. I'm not changing my plans at the last minute just because they decided to drop by without coordinating with us in advance, or because they want us to do something with them. Neither of us makes plans with our parents or accepts invitations until we discuss with our partner. And if we don't both agree, then we don't do it, and we don't throw each other under the bus. We just say something like, "We checked our schedule and we're not available." Holidays like Christmas, Halloween, Easter, etc. are at our house. We can discuss inviting our parents, but we're not going to someone else's house to celebrate something involving our son when we can do it at home. This includes his first birthday, which MIL is trying to take over, and plan other holidays where alternate between our parents, and we will focus on being present. That means no more texting, talking to his mom non-stop when we're with my parents. No more oversharing with MIL. She doesn't need to know about our finances or health medical issues or vacation plans or anything, unless we both agree it's something we want to share. His visits to his parents can't be at the expense of spending quality time with me and our son. I don't mind him visiting his parents, but he's over there a couple times a week. We are his immediate family now. We should get priority. We're not doing things just because she said we should. And we're not changing our plans just because she doesn't like them. She really doesn't understand that wrong and different are not the same thing. In her mind, if we're not doing what she wants, how she wants, then we are in the wrong. He needs to go to therapy with someone specializing in enmeshment. And we need to start going to couples therapy. I didn't even realize I have so much pent-up resentment that I can't look at my husband the same anymore. I'm just angry at him all the time, and I hate being this way. When it comes to our son, our word husband and me is law. If she disregards or minimizes our decisions for our son, then she loses access until she learns to behave. When me or my husband say no to either set of parents, the other person will support them and back them up. That means my husband has to stop trying to get me to agree with his mom all the time. I can tell he's freaked out and really stressed about the idea of putting hard boundaries in place or distancing from his parents. And I do feel for him. He said he feels like he's caught between a rock and a hard place, and that me and his mom are both putting a ton of pressure on him and both have conflicting expectations. And that's fine. He just needs to understand that I'm not tolerating this anymore. I know this will cause an absolute shitstorm with his parents, but I feel like if we don't do it now, it'll just be harder down the road. What does everyone think? Am I being unreasonable? Are there other boundaries we should put in place? Comments. Commenter 1. I think you should remind that if you divorce, he will have the same problem with the next person. Does he feel ready to keep having his parents ruin his relationships? Reply. That is an excellent point. I think his mom is at least partially responsible for some of his earlier relationships ending. I'll make sure to point this out. Commenter 2 and OP. He isn't caught between a rock and a hard place. You're expecting a husband and an equal partner, which is a perfectly normal thing to expect out of a marriage, especially since you both made vows promising each other exactly that his mother is. Expecting a lifelong commitment to being an emotional support son, plus a fill-in husband. She's expecting to always be his priority, and that her grown adult son should put her wants above his needs. Not only is this unreasonable, but he never agreed to this. He never promised this. So he's not in the middle. He's making a conscious choice to choose his mother's reality and desires over his actual real-life responsibilities. This is all on him, since he could stop it by saying no and sticking to that. Commenter 3. You need a timeline? Can't say do all this, and then in a year say, hey, you didn't do checkbox 3 and 4, I am out. By September we'll have had a counseling session together, and he had 2 on his own, and we had a family trip, just 3 of you to the seaside or something. Put dates down, so by New Year's if things haven't improved you can call a lawyer. Reply, that is an excellent idea. He did seem overwhelmed, and admittedly, it is a lot. I wouldn't expect it all at once, but this is where we have to end up. And I have to see progress and change. I'll sit down with him again tonight and start having that conversation. I want him to be successful. I want us to be successful. And I'm willing to put the work in, and to also help support him. But he will need to do the same. Commenter 4. You know, the thing that would do it for me is him saying he feels caught between a rock and a hard place. He knows he's hurt you. You've now told him all the things his mother has done that have hurt you. He knows his mother is damaging his marriage, and he knows that you will leave him if he will not change, and yet still, he's torn. Still, it's some kind of quandary for him as to what to do. He has been given the choice between saving his marriage by setting and maintaining healthy boundaries with his mother, or further destroying his marriage and causing his son to grow up in a broken home by refusing to sever the umbilical cord tying him to his mother, and he still isn't sure what to do. I think him saying he's torn is because he hopes you'll feel guilty and back down because he knows his mummy won't change, and he cares more about being attached to her than about saving his marriage. I agree there needs to be a timeline, but I also think he needs to understand that you are serious here. You will divorce him if he continues to place his mother ahead of you and your son. That means he will no longer have a wife. He will only get to be with his son 50% of the time, and he will have to start over all by himself. If he's really willing to lose out on 100% of your marriage and 50% of your son's childhood because he's too afraid to stand up to his mother, that's certainly his choice, but it would be a stupid one. After all, he's risking his marriage and being a full-time dad for his mother, a woman who wasn't even willing to let him have a honeymoon in peace. If he's willing to throw away everything for a mother who refuses to consider anyone but herself, he deserves to wind up alone with nothing but his mummy and his regrets to keep him company. I'm sorry to be so harsh, and I do recognize that he has a tough choice, and his mother has conditioned him to be this way. But that rock and place line really got me. Your marriage is on fire, and he is genuinely struggling to decide whether he should grab the fire extinguisher or the lighter fluid. Commenter 5. I made a post not too long ago where I mentioned in the comments that my husband ranted that he felt stuck in the middle. The commenters really put it into perspective that there is no such thing as being in the middle in a healthy marriage. I communicated that to my husband, and I think it really clicked for him that he was choosing to be in the middle. I told him that if we share the same values and goals, then he should already be sticking up for those values and goals to his parents, friends, or anyone. I say all that because your husband says he's caught between a rock and a hard place, but he's choosing to keep himself there. As you said, him going to therapy is a non-negotiable. Reply, thank you for this. That is a great perspective to have. I'll explain this next time we talk. Update 2. Aita. For not planning anything for Father's Day after my husband ruined my first Mother's Day couple. Things I want to mention first. A lot of commenters have been saying that I knew what I was getting into when I married DH. So this whole thing is as much my fault as anyone else's. And if I didn't want a mama's boy, I shouldn't have married one. Yep. You are 100% correct. I ignored all the red flags, constantly told myself it would get better once we were engaged, then once we were married, then once we got pregnant, then once we had kids. And I think part of the issue is, she's gotten worse over the years. It feels like one of those frog in a pot of boiling water situations. I don't deny I put myself into this situation, but the fact is we're here now, so we need to get it figured out. A lot of other commenters said my list of rules was crazy, and I'm just as bad as his mom. Maybe I am more on that later, but I don't think there is anything about my boundaries that is unreasonable, and there is nothing there that I expect from him and his parents that I don't also expect from myself and my parents. I've said repeatedly, they all boil down to the same basic thing: showing each other respect and consideration. I'm not saying he can't see his parent, or that they can't come visit or anything like that. I'm saying that his parents don't get to have priority over us and our little family, and neither do my parents. First, the good. My husband ended up surprising me with a trip out of town. He took me and Ello down to San Antonio for a long weekend. We had been pre-kid and really enjoyed staying on the river walk and doing all the touristy stuff even though we only live a few hours away. DH ended up really stressed and kept apologizing because obviously this trip was much different. It felt more like a military expedition with all the gear we took for LO, and it wasn't nearly as romantic, since we had a pack and play next to the bed. But I kept reminding him that what was important to me at least was that he took the initiative to plan something on his own and try to make up for Mother's Day. Even though it wasn't exactly what Hubs was hoping for, I had a really good time and enjoyed spending time with my two guys, and I expressed that to him. And to his credit, DH didn't answer when his mom called or spend all day texting her. I know he paid for it when we got back, because I heard them on the phone, and it sounded like she was reading him the riot act for not telling them we were going, not inviting them along, and not answering when she called. I'm going to do something for him as a belated Father's Day, and we're going to try to build different, better memories of our first MDFD, even if it's after the fact more good stuff. DH and I both have individual therapists we've been seeing weekly for the past several weeks, as well as a couples therapist we have been seeing weekly together. And I'm going back to work full-time next week. So Ello has been going to daycare part-time to help him acclimate. The first day was pretty traumatic, more for me than for LO, but he's been adjusting well, and seems happy when I pick him up after lunch. This is a huge point of contention with MILBC. She wants to babysit, but I've said absolutely not because she won't respect any of our rules or boundaries. I've also been following through on my list of boundaries on my last post. I'm not NC, but I guess the term is, I've dropped the rope. Now the bad for LO's first birthday. I was planning something small and casual at our house, just our parents and a few close friends, like 10-15 people. Max, counting me and DH. I was going to make a smash cake for LO and more grown-up type food for us, and guests. I was planning some low-key decorations, because let's be honest, this kind of party is for the adults. Kiddo isn't going to remember any of it, so I didn't want to go overboard. MIL hated everything about it, and wanted to do it at her house, invite all her friends and relatives, serve more kid-centric food, get a store-bought cake with all that super sweet icing, and go nuts with decorations. I told her, no, absolutely not, our kid, our house, our plans. She went crying to DH, and he tried to talk me into letting her have her way. This has been a constant theme. MIL oversteps. I complain, DH puts up boundaries, and then just as quickly DH forgets about the boundaries. We were able to talk about this in one of our early couples sessions, and it was pretty enlightening. I'm sure all the people saying DH just ended up marrying, some just like his mom, will be gratified to know our counselor said OP can have a forceful personality. So yay, I'm bossy. How it came up is we were talking about the party and I was saying what I wanted to do and why I didn't want to let my MIL take over, etc., and DH was trying to explain why we should accommodate MIL. The therapist interrupted us and asked DH what he wanted to do. DH started talking about my plan versus his mom's plan, and the therapist stopped him and asked again what he wants. Based on his reaction, I don't think anyone has ever seriously asked him that. He had a complete deer in headlights look, and I really thought he was going to bolt or start crying or both. How we ended it is, if he truly doesn't have an opinion or doesn't care, then he should probably defer to his wife approach. He shouldn't delegate his right to decide to his mom. If he really wants to do it her way, then he needs to express that and say he wants to do it her way, because he really wants to do it her way, as opposed to doing it her way just to avoid upsetting her. Or if he wants something completely different, he needs to express that. But his mom's opinion is not and cannot take precedence. Nothing wrong with her expressing her opinion and him agreeing, but that needs to be an active process, as opposed to him just doing something because she said so. That was followed up by a conversation about how I have strong thoughts and opinions, and I need to give him room to have his own. So rather than saying, I want to do X, and then expecting him to agree or disagree, I need to say something like, for Lo's birthday, I have some ideas, but I'd like to hear what you think first so we can decide together. We did end up doing the party the way I wanted because DH took the therapist's advice and deferred to me since he didn't have an opinion. MIL was super pissy about the whole thing and ended up bringing a sheet cake, despite me telling her multiple times not to. We didn't serve it during the party because boundaries, which pissed her off. DH and I have been munching on it as a late-night snack after putting Lo to bed, and because of how insanely sweet the icing is, I'm glad I stuck to my guns. I feel better because I put distance between myself and Mill, and I'm not worrying about pissing her off, so I'm not walking on eggshells anymore, but I don't know if I'm any more confident about whether our marriage will survive. I'm realizing that DH has deferred to other people, Emil and me, for so long, he has a hard time having his own thoughts and opinions. I do still love him very much, and I'm not as mad as I was when I first posted. Now I'm more sad for him, and I'm starting to understand him better, but I don't know if he can change. I know she is complaining to him because I haven't been kowtowing to her, and I haven't been visiting on my own or changing plans when they drop by unexpectedly, but I'm not pushing him to establish his own boundaries, yet I think he needs to do more work so he can decide what he wants out of all this. All that to say, we're still working through it, and I don't know what's going to happen. Comments. Commenter 1. It sounds like he has some wonderful growth opportunities ahead, with you supporting his forays into the world of opinions, and with Mael held a safe distance away. I have hope that he can find out what he wants. Commenter 2. Progress, not perfection. Glad to see you guys headed in a positive direction. Hope it continues getting better. Commenter 3. DH started talking about my plan versus his mom's plan, and the therapist stopped him and asked again what he wants. He doesn't have an opinion because his mom has steamrolled him on everyone all his life. That's why he defaults to siding with his mom. She's his decision-making faculty. Glad your therapist shone a light on this. He still needs a lot of therapy to cut that cord, but it looks like you're on the right track with this therapist. Good luck. Commenter 4. I want to state up front that I'm not siding with you or hubby, but I want to give you maybe a glimpse at what hubby may be dealing with. My mother has always been very domineering. She's actually a huge asshole. If she didn't get her way, or if someone would give their opinion, she would scream, stomp around, slam things, etc. I can honestly say I don't think I ever heard her speaking voice until I was into my 30s, as all I ever heard was her screaming. Anyway, I was a very smart kid straight, as without ever cracking a book, solid instant mechanical reasoning. But if you ask me my opinion, or what I thought about something outside a school lesson, I couldn't answer you. I was so crippled by never being able to think through a problem, that I guess my brain would just shut down when I was asked to. I don't know if I'm explaining this right, but basically someone would ask me, hey, what's your favorite food? And my mother would instantly respond with X. And if the person would try to push me for an answer, my mother would either start yelling about my favorite food or clench her jaw and glare at me, daring me to contradict her, which I obviously never did as I knew I would get screamed at and whooped when we got home for embarrassing her. I joined the army out of high school, and for the first several years I was a kick-ass soldier, because I did everything I was told, exactly how I was told to, and being yelled at didn't faze me one bit. This is already really long, so I'll just say one of my leaders, who became one of my best friends, saw my struggles and taught me how to use my own voice and figure out deductive reasoning and stuff. My long-ass point, sorry, being if hubby is suffering like I did. It may take him years to find his voice, and to actually find out that it's okay to use it. Reassure him that it's okay to have his own opinions and likes, dislikes, and that you want him to speak up. It sucks, but you may have to help him figure out how, as stupid as that sounds, have him start making decisions on stupid things. Babe, what do you think we should have for dinner tonight? Hubs, what should we do this weekend? And then have him give details. I wish you luck. Stories number 13, Aita, for not changing my name on DoorDash after getting married. My husband, 30M, and I, 28F, got married a little over a year ago. Anyways, I ordered DoorDash for us for lunch yesterday, and when it arrived, he got it from the porch. When he came back to the kitchen, he was visibly upset, and when I asked what was wrong, he asked me why my last initial on the order was still my maiden name. I told him I never really thought about it. He asked me to change it, but I refused and told him he was overreacting because it wasn't that important, as it's only for the dasher to get whatever we ordered from the restaurant, and you don't even have to put your real name. He blew up and wouldn't talk to me for hours. He eventually said if I was ashamed of using his last name, then I should just say so, and without letting me speak, he left to stay at his parents' house. He hasn't responded to any of my texts or calls for the last 24 hours, but I still have his location, and he is indeed at his parents' house. Honestly, at this point, I have no idea what to think Aita for not changing it when he asked, or is this a start to something much bigger? We've never had an argument like this and have had a perfect marriage and relationship otherwise. I just feel like, I don't know then, man, I'm married to anymore. Comments. Commenter 1, my wife still gets stuff with her old name. She was married prior, and then went back to her maiden name. So it's her ex-husband's name, I'd gaff. I got her, and she's fucking awesome and fucking hot. Dude needs to grow up and put his little fifis to bed. She kept her maiden name when we married. Again, I got her. Commenter 2. This guy loves his wife. Reply, I needed to read this. I'm just scared for what this means. I don't like turning to Reddit, but this is where I've seen the most emotionally evolved people. Commenter 3. Really weird that this has cropped up when you say it's completely out of character. Hopefully he chooses to talk to you like a grown-up instead of running to his parents, but maybe for the best. Is there something he's not telling you? Job, cheating, finances? Hard to know. But it's not your job to mother it out of him. Yeah, I find some surprisingly solid advice on here. Lots of bad advice too, but if you're a reasonably sane person, you can discern which is which. Good luck, and update us if you feel like it. Reply, I'm not sure if there's something he's hiding. He manages most the finances except the mortgage, since it was my house before we got married. He makes more money than me, so I doubt that's the issue, especially since everything else is working and seems to be getting paid. I definitely will update when I figure more out. This is just the most wild situation I've ever been in, and it's hard when I can't figure out for the life of me why it means so much to him to literally leave for 2 nights already, and I don't know when he'll even speak to me to see where we're going from here. Commenter 4, NTAH. And OMG, that is such childish behavior. Then running home makes it even worse. Does he overreact about much, or is this the first time? This can spell huge issues in the future, or maybe he is just having a bad day. Wish you luck. Reply, we have had a pretty much perfect relationship. I really don't understand what's going on. I really don't think this is a big deal, but I'm torn between the thought that I made it a big deal by refusing, and it being a red flag that he cares so much about it. Commenter 5. My name on DoorDash is Clammy Boss Man. He's being a silly goose. Reply, this made me laugh. I needed that update. I am definitely an idiot, but the best lessons are learned firsthand. A few days after my original post, he came home. His mother had called me. We have always been on fairly good terms, asking what was going on since he wouldn't tell her. I explained the situation, and she told me she was very disappointed in him for starting all this over something so simple, regardless of if I was willing to change it or not. Anyways, he came home and apologized with the most sincere apology I've ever received in my life, or so I thought. This weekend his job had a Labor Day party where all his co-workers and their families were invited over to the boss's house. We don't normally go to these sort of things because our families are Usually doing things the same days, but this time we decided to go since my children were with their dad. And our families were out of town. We get there, and I'm meeting a lot of new people, but I'm most looking forward to meeting Danny. The guy I assumed was his best friend since he's always talking about him. Danny is nowhere to be found until this drop-dead gorgeous woman walks in. Turns out Danny is actually Danny, short for Danielle. I kept my cool at the omission of her gender, but it all clicked when her and I had a conversation. She is probably one of the most progressive women I've ever met, but not in an aggressive manner. I honestly think I could be really good friends with this woman. She's so poised and genuinely nice. She told me she recently got engaged. The funny thing is she owns a side business, so she will not be changing her last name. Apparently my husband made a fool of himself to her as well by saying her fiancé wasn't a real man, because he's okay with that. She told him off and didn't speak to him for a few days. She said he apologized. Get this. Before he apologized to me. Anyways, turns out that whole argument was a projection of his own inner feelings and the discrepancy between him and Danny. I kept my cool at the party. But in the conversation I had with him later, he admitted to having a crush on her. I was so livid and hurt by this, I kicked him out. I'm going to be calling divorce lawyers today because I'm done, and will not spend the rest of my life worrying if he has something going on with one of his co-workers. I'm just thankful that the house was mine before we got married. Comments, commenter. 1. When it's something minor that causes a big fuss, it usually almost always projection. That has a bigger meaning behind it. SMH jerk. Please update as this goes. If you can, commenter. 2. Kicking him out and moving toward divorce sounds like a strong, self-respecting decision, commenter. 3. Okay, this plot twist gave me whiplash. You'll be hearing from my attorney. Commenter. 4. Yikes. Good call. His behavior is a huge red flag. Divorce sounds like the right move. Commenter. 5. The blessing here is that everything came to light early before you tied up more of your life with his. And you're absolutely right. Having the house in your name gives you huge security and power in this process. Stories number 14. ATA for refusing to leave my apartment. For a day because of my Muslim roommate's conservative mom. Throwaway because my roommates know my main account. So I, 23M, live in a college apartment with 2 roommates, both of which are women, and one of them is Muslim. Let's call her Sana. We all get along pretty well and have lived together for over a year with no issues. Yesterday, Sana told us her mom was visiting for the upcoming weekend for info. Her mom is very conservative and religious, and apparently doesn't approve of her daughter living with male roommates. Awkward because I exist. As a result, Sana asked if I could leave the apartment entirely for the day her mom was visiting. Like, be out the whole day and even find somewhere else to sleep overnight? I told her I wasn't comfortable with that. BC, I had a major assignment due, and I focus best when I'm working from home. I also didn't want to have to pack up all my stuff and go stay somewhere else just to keep up an appearance for someone I don't even know. Additionally, I pay equal rent and felt like I had a right to be in the apartment still. To try and compromise, I offered to stay in my room the entire day and be quiet, not come out at all, on the condition that I'd at least be allowed to quickly come out to make lunch or dinner, or they could just bring food to my room so I wouldn't starve. I genuinely thought that was fair and respectful. But no, Sana wasn't happy with that and insisted I should be out of the apartment entirely. She said her mom would freak out if she found out a guy lived there, and it would cause a lot of drama in her family. I said, while I understood her position, I wasn't going to dip from my own home, especially with a big deadline hanging over me. She's still pissed and being pretty cold toward me now, and also vented to our other roommate, who stayed neutral and said she saw both sides. I really wasn't trying to be difficult or disrespectful. I understand her cultural situation, but I also feel like it's unfair to expect someone to completely vacate their home just to accommodate someone else's family's beliefs, especially when I tried to find a middle ground. So Aita? Edit. Sana never chose to have male roommates, but it just so happened that she was practically bullied out of her old apartment, all female, for a conflict involving another girl. And this was her last resort. Also, I'm so disheartened to see so much hate in the comments, and it's enlightened me to be kinder and more understanding to Sana and her situation. This was never meant to start a debate in the comments, and I urge everyone to have more empathy and humanity. I will also be going home and asking a friend if I can stay over for a day, for everyone concerned about how if I let it bypass now, that it will happen again and again. I will speak to Sana about this properly and urge her to talk to her mom. Thank you for all the level-headed and empathetic comments I did get that helped me understand her perspective better, as I do care for her greatly and never want to hurt her if I can help it. One day isn't the end of the world, and if it helps her, I've realized I'd be happy to do it. Comments. Commenter 1. Tell Sana that if she pays for a hotel room, food delivery, and any extra costs you will be happy to move out for a day. Commenter 2. NTS she moved in with a man knowing this would most likely happen. She should have moved in with all women then. Either she can put her big girl pants on and face the music with her mom, or she can move out. Commenter 3. NTA Sana chose to live with you and should have anticipated that someday her mom would visit, or otherwise figure out her living situation. It's up to her to resolve this, and it is horribly unfair to expect you to vanish from your own home for a day and a night. Commenter 4. I had a housemate during undergrad with a conservative Muslim family who couldn't know she lived with anyone who drank alcohol or were male. She communicated this in the beginning, and we were okay supporting her. No relatives ever slept over, and when they visited, we would hide the alcohol, empty the recycling, and pretend the boys didn't live there. One time her brother stopped by for a surprise visit. We just pretended the male roommate who was home was my boyfriend. It wasn't a hardship because we loved and supported her, and everything was communicated in the beginning. So we had a reasonable and non-burdensome plan in place. Stories number 15. Apparently we have to share our driveway because they have to share theirs. We moved into my home when my daughter was 2 months old. Our neighbors were already showing signs of being a handful. They initially kept parking all of their vehicles, a huge truck, a Jeep, and a motorcycle on our driveway and taking up the entire space. We hoped that once they realized the driveway wasn't vacant and that someone had moved in that they would naturally stop. And they did sort of. The guy living next door kept driving down it on the motorcycle and he would park it in the middle of the driveway. Still most of the time he was gone before my husband and I got home, so there wasn't a confrontation. But when my husband had to deploy and I broke my leg, our car sat vacant in the driveway, unmoving. As soon as the neighbors realized this, they just started using it as if it were their own again. He even parked his truck and used our driveway to change out his lifted tires. This went on for 3 months, until I was well enough to walk up the steps and talk to them. I'm 5'2", and this guy towers over me. I don't know how to explain it, but everything about his body language tells me this guy is dangerous. The way he walks and moves and wears his clothes, he gives me time served in jail vibes, though. He was probably somebody's bitch or at the very least hothead. So I was nervous and polite but firm. I said, I need you to move your motorcycle off my driveway. This is not a shared space, it's private property. I hoped that would be the end of it. Of course it wasn't. He never really stopped. That wasn't the worst of it either. They live on the top unit of their house. It's a condo, and leave their trash can open at the bottom of their steps, same side as my driveway. They drop down the whole week's worth of trash into the trash can below, and don't bother to clean up the mess they make. Initially they left it open for the bugs and the animals to be attracted to. One day, I came home with my daughter while my husband was still deployed, and I got swarmed horror movie style by all the bugs from their trash can. I was scared. I know it's silly to be scared of bugs, but I was worried they would bite my daughter, and they did. We both got inside covered in welts on our arms and the back of our necks and our faces. We both have overreactive skin when we get bites, so they become big, round red welts. It wasn't the first time, but it was the worst. I decided to message the property manager. The whole property was trashed and was the obvious cause of a lot of the mosquitoes. They have a sign outside their house that says, managed by. I texted that number and let her know what was going on, and sent pictures. It was a weekend, about 7 or 8 a.m., and I didn't know it wasn't a business number. The woman was extremely offended that I messaged her early, and on a weekend she seemed so angered by it that it was obvious she wasn't going to help. I asked her if I could have the landlord's number. Big mistake. She isn't just managing the property, she owns it. That's not what the sign outside said, but that was enough to shut down all communication with her. She did mention it to my neighbors, and they did start to close their trash can lids, but I could tell that, however she worded it to them, I was the problem, and she didn't really care how much of a nuisance they were. She also included the downstairs neighbors that had just moved in the text, and from then on they gave me dirty looks too. I had specifically mentioned that I had not seen them contributing to the trash accumulation, but it didn't really matter. I was making a name for myself with my neighbors, and it wasn't good. Then the summer months came, and my husband came home, and the upstairs neighbors' kids began playing outside. More initially, I had a soft spot for them. We don't live in a cul-de-sac, and people drive fast down our street. I worried about them from far away, and considered talking to the city to get permission to paint a hopscotch pad out on the sidewalk out front, and build a free library they could enjoy. There's a blind spot when you first turn into my driveway, and one day the kids were on it, and I turned in. I was probably 10 feet away from them with my car, but it felt closer. Some of these kids are really small. When I got out of my car, I asked them politely not to play in my driveway, that it's not safe. They kind of got bashful because they were little, and agreed and zipped off to the front of the houses. But from then on they ramped up. It was like we had become the Boo Radley of the neighborhood. They threw toys that hit our windows and doors, started walking up to our house in the dark, and sitting on our back porch like at 10 p.m. Then one day, encouraged by the eldest child who was 14, they broke a cinder block with a sledgehammer and threw the pieces at our house and windows. The worst things always seemed to happen when my husband was away on the ship overnight. Maybe they would see. The car was gone, and feel emboldened. I went outside and told the kids to get off my property, or I would call the cops. The eldest said, "Do it." What are they going to do? We're kids. It's a driveway. Get over it. So I called the cops. I had them properly tell the neighbors where the property line was, and that we would start legal proceedings should they continue to trespass. I got more colorful no trespassing signs at the recommendation of the officer. I did this 3 or so times, and it became apparent that the police weren't really going to help. They said we had to file a civil case with the courthouse, but couldn't tell us the names of the adults in the home for us to file the claim. Otherwise, they said that unless the neighbors were actively on our property when they pulled up, that they couldn't even issue a citation. Even with video evidence from our cameras, I watched the children gather up the chunks of brick that they had thrown at our house, and they began to throw it at the downstairs neighbor's dog. At first I saw them throwing it where the dog usually was, but I couldn't see if the dog was there, and I hoped that he was away. But then one day I caught movement on my camera, and I knew for sure that the dog was getting rocks thrown at it. I contacted animal control, and they got a hold of the downstairs neighbors who weren't home at the time. The downstairs neighbor came over, and I told her I wasn't trying to be a menace neighbor, that I don't hate kids, and that I had noticed her kid was the most well-mannered of the bunch, which is true, and I showed her the video. We exchanged numbers. I wish I could say we found common ground and became friends or something, but the woman has to live with those upstairs neighbors, and I get the feeling she is just trying to stay in neutral ground, which I totally respect. The rocks stopped getting thrown at the dog, but we didn't talk much after that. She asked a few weeks later if I saw who stole her son's bike, and I looked through my cameras and hadn't caught it. Otherwise we didn't talk. The kids would twerk or flip off our cameras and continue to trespass. The whole family was still littering all over the driveway, and the father intentionally revved his motorcycle as he would go down it every other day, sometimes inches from our vehicle. We scrimped and saved for a fence, and once we had most of the materials, applied for a permit from the city. We were recently gifted a lawnmower, and my husband has been spending more time doing yard work. Yesterday the man next door blatantly went down the driveway while my husband was there and narrowly missed him, with his motorcycle probably on purpose. Angry words ensued, and the man got off his motorcycle still parked in our driveway, and we finally found out his logic. The reason he feels entitled to our driveway. He said that it's a driveway, and he's not hurting it or us by going down it. My husband said he's breaking the law by trespassing, and his kids have thrown rocks at our house. Harm is being done. The man said that his kids throwing rocks and him going down our driveway are separate issues. My husband said, "You're a family, it's not separate." Then the man's magnum opus of a statement. The reason he does what he does is because his landlord screwed him over and made him share the driveway with his downstairs neighbors, so we should have to share ours. The man egged us to call the police. But at this point, we had the permit processed. We had the fence panels. My husband laughed at him and said we have our own solution. 3 or so hours later, the man comes home to my husband putting up fence posts. They stand on their balcony as my husband works, and whisper to each other, but my husband can hear them. The man says, "That fucker, that's probably not even the correct line," and the woman says, "It is, because we have a survey, and the police told them where the line was." The man says, "It's not even that big of a deal. The best part is, it's going to be a beautiful fence." My husband's initial gut reaction was to get a 6-footer, but the city wouldn't allow us to take it all the way to the sidewalk. So we have these really nice Gothic picket panels and some pretty cedar stain and seal, and they didn't have the Gothic posts, so we used 2x4s instead, and we are going to put up really nice solar lights on them. We didn't put it directly on the property line, but we didn't leave them enough room to continue to bring their trash can down our driveway, and the motorcycle most certainly won't fit. I already have the plants I want picked out to plant. Next year we are pretty broke, so they will have to wait. Don't think this is going to be solved by just putting up the fence. I wish it would be the end of it. But even though I hate confrontation, it was a relief to finally start working on a solution. It brings me joy to imagine them seething inside every time they look at our adorable Gothic fence with adorable solar lights. I hope it is as frustrating to them as this whole unnecessary ordeal has been for us. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. Make sure you've got cameras on the new fence, because now when they trash it, that will be vandalism and destruction of property. And even Keystone cops like the ones you're dealing with here will pay attention to that? Seriously, why do cops lie about "Oh, I have to see the trespassing with my own 2 little eyes"? If a law isn't broken in front of a cop, then well, it's like a tree falling in a forest, right? Reply: fortunately our cameras go all the way down the driveway. We can see the whole thing. I was really surprised by the cops' take. We have video and pictures of the children literally mid-throwing the rocks. Commenter 2. Oh, hun, I'm so sorry to say this, but you'll be back. They'll have their kids vandalize that fence within a week. Prepare for a civil suit. Reply: we knew that was a possibility when we made the choice to do the fence. They managed not to properly damage the walls or windows when they threw rocks. Thank God. If they actually damage the fence, we will have better legal grounds to press charges. Commenter 3. I am confused why you would be kind enough to let them use your driveway for their garbage can still? Wouldn't it benefit you to make them move their garbage can away from your home and have to move it down their own driveway? Reply: we don't allow them to. They just wouldn't stop. I kept calling the cops, but the cops wouldn't do anything, until I felt like I was being a nuisance for calling. They don't care when I tell them not to do it. They just say, "It's not a big deal," and "It's just a driveway." They literally don't care. Commenter 4. The fact that you let it go on this long is partially your fault. No offense. Not that what they're doing isn't illegal and trashy. By continuing to let them get away with it and facing no consequences, they see no reason to stop vehicle in your driveway. Call a tow truck every time you see this and get it removed ASAP. They'll be happy to make money off your neighbor trespassing. Don't even engage with these trashy neighbors. Property destroyed? Harassment? Call the police every time with documentation. Keep the cameras up and keep all recordings. Reply: we have been calling and documenting. The cops won't cite them because they are already off the property by the time the cops arrive. I have a binder. We keep the printed out images with dates and records of every incident. Commenter 5. Your husband should meet with base legal services about this continuing harassment. They won't look too kindly on neighbors being threatening while your husband is deployed. They can write a cease and desist letter to the neighbors. Won't cost you anything. Reply: fortunately, my husband has returned from deployment. We wanted to file for a cease and desist with the county, but they need the names of our neighbors and we don't know them. I've tried every way to get them. The cops couldn't tell me, and we have their license plates, but those don't tell me either. They aren't on the property records of the house because they don't own. And the landlord already dislikes me, Commenter 6. If you rent, consider yourself lucky and move. If not, bite the bullet and sell. These people will be a constant nuisance for years. You do not want to be around those kids when they all become teenagers, as you can see by the 14-year-old's behavior. They are learning to be delinquents by behaving like their parents. If moving is not an option, you need an access gate on your driveway in addition to the fence. Reply, we own. But I've talked to my husband about selling once we get his next set of orders. It's so sad this city and our home is so beautiful. It's in a historic district, and if it weren't for this one family, we would be so happy here. It's the kind of community where people sit outside in the evening and play with their kids. OP's location. Reply, Virginia. Small update. Apparently we have to share our driveway because they have to share theirs. So it's been 3 days since we started building the fence. My husband has gotten 3 posts in his working on it, between weather, work, and a toddler, so it's going slow. We contacted the bottom neighbor and let them know that they will want to move a riding lawn mower that will get locked in place by the fence, and they are working on it. It has a dead battery, and, drumroll please, the wife of the upstairs neighbors actually asked us if it was okay for her kid to take his trash can down the driveway. This one last time he couldn't do it without asking, because we had a lineup between the completed posts. I know that's not a huge victory, but it is the literal first time anyone from that family has asked anything, or even been a little polite. My husband allowed it, stating the fence will be up before they can bring the trash can back, so they will want to plan for that. It benefits us in our fence building for the trash can to be removed from its location anyway, because it's been butting against the property line. I know it's not the blood you're looking for, but I see it as a hopeful sign. Maybe this last act of grace will soothe some of their resentments, so the war can end. If not, we are still on our toes. I'll post a picture once the fence is up, and update if we get any retaliation from Hothead Dad and Juvenile Delinquent. Sun-relevant comments. Commenter 1. Makes me wonder if the wife wasn't as terrible, but the husband is one of those alpha male stereotypes. Also noticed on your other post you are going to plant things. Check out sales this time of year. If you give the plants enough water, they'll survive and you can get some amazing deals, like $5 per plant when it's usually about $20. Commenter 2. Yeah. In the other post, she told her smart-ass husband he was wrong in assuming they weren't building the fence on their property line. Sounds like she might be a lot more civil than the rest of her family. Reply, I think she is. She's always told her kids not to do what they're doing. But it goes like this. Mom, do you want the neighbors to call the cops on us? Don't throw rocks at their house, kid. We aren't hurting anything. Mom goes inside. Kid doesn't skip a beat and continues to throw rocks. Commenter 2. I've read both posts and I'm having trouble visualizing all this. Is there any way to get a diagram of how all these neighbors need access to your driveway and can't take their trash or mower out without it? Reply. They don't need access at all, but supposedly the upstairs neighbor kid is afraid of the downstairs neighbor dog can't. Imagine why, seeing as he was throwing rocks at the poor thing and didn't want to cross the dog's path to put the trash can out. It was news to me, but she mentioned it when she asked my husband to let the boy do it. One last time, theoretically, they will now move their trash to their own driveway and not have to pass the dog at all. So still not our problem going forward. Commenter 3. I know you said the plants will have to wait until next year, but check out Facebook Marketplace. A lot of people give plants away for free or just a few dollars. Reply. I will. I would really love some plants. It would really bring me so much joy to get something growing. Update 2. Apparently we have to share our driveway because they have to share theirs. We were trying to be courteous to the downstairs neighbor, and we gave them a week's notice that the placement of our posts and panels will lock their riding lawnmower in place. They are not the tenants that we've had huge problems with. Their child and their dog walker have trespassed on our property. Though as well, I have no idea how a house in the middle of a through street ends up becoming the neighborhood alleyway anyway. I gave them notice a week ago about the fence and gave them time to move their lawnmower. Initially the guy came out and tried to move it, but the battery was dead. He said he needed a couple days to get a new battery. By a few days later, they aren't really communicating, and when I message saying my husband wants to complete the posts by the following day, the woman says that It's not a priority for her because she's dealing with a recent miscarriage, and that her partner is working on it. Now he got the battery and managed to turn it on, but he still hasn't moved the lawnmower. He has left jumper cables and a gas can next to it indicating work. It is 2 days after he managed to turn it on. And the guy sat outside cooking burgers yesterday and didn't work on it at all. Neither of them have told me what the holdup is. With moving the thing mechanically, I'm 5 months pregnant. I really empathize with her loss. But am I wrong for wondering why they haven't just popped that mower into neutral and pushed it? I know a few of you said I've been a doormat, and you aren't wrong. I've been very passive, hoping to resolve things amicably, and without having to resort to offense I couldn't really afford. But I am beyond frustrated with this ongoing situation. Tell me, how much longer should we wait before we put the post in behind the lawnmower? I don't want two families retaliating against me if possible. But I really want this project to keep moving forward. As for the other neighbors, they have started respecting the line, and they moved their trash cans to the other side of their house. Shocker. I'm still wary, but it's nice to see some progress. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. Is the mower in your yard? If not, how would it get fenced in? If so, why? Reply. There is an L-shaped space under their second floor. Hard to explain that they have placed it in. It conveniently fits next to the house's AIK unit and a set of stairs to the second floor. It's on their property, but to back it out and remove it from that space, they have to ride it down our driveway. Commenter 2. You already gave them the deadline, stick to it. They are walking over you because they think you will let them. Commenter 3. You don't wait. They're dragging it out so you don't. Put the fence up. They know as soon as it's moved, the fence goes up. They're banking on the fact that if you can see it, you won't do the fence. Screw them. They had notice. If he had time to grill, he had time to move it. Just put up the fence, and they can deal with their own laziness themselves. Commenter 4. You send them a certified letter stating that they were told on X date about the posts and asked to move their mower. It has been 2 weeks, and the mower is still in the same spot. Tell them that on X date, the posts will be placed regardless of whether or not the mower has been moved, and that you are not responsible if they fail to move it by that date. Stories number 16. AIO for telling. My boyfriend, his best friend, can't sleep over in our bed while I'm away. I 27F am away for my sister's hen due this weekend. My boyfriend 28M just casually announced that his best mate from uni, a woman, is in town for a gig, and he's offered for her to stay at ours. Grand. No bother. Then he drops that since our sofa is knackered and the airbed has a slow puncture, she'll just have to kip in our bed with him. While I'm not there, I told him absolutely not. I'm not comfortable with that at all. I offered to nip to Argos after work and grab a new airbed. I even said I'd chip in for a travelodge. I said he could sleep on the floor if it was that much of a big deal. He reckons that's insulting to her and that I'm making it weird, because they're just mates. Here's the thing though. They did have a thing back in school, which he says was for like 2 weeks. She also has a habit of FaceTiming him late at night and posts old photos of them with captions like, "My absolute favorite human." He swears blind it's all platonic, but sharing our actual bed just feels like a massive boundary crossed. He's proper kicked off, saying I'm being controlling and that she's skint, so it's just the decent thing to do. Now he's saying if she can't stay in our bed, he'll just go and stay at her brother's house with her instead. To be honest, that sounds even dodgier. Am I the one going mental here? It's not that I don't trust him exactly, it just feels disrespectful to me and to our relationship. He's making out like I'm some jealous psycho, but I feel like this is a pretty normal thing to be against. Just want to know if I'm being unreasonable. Before this turns into a massive row, comments. Commenter 1. You proved that you trusted him when you showed you weren't bothered about her staying at the flat without you there, because let's face it, most people wouldn't be okay with that. So you've more than proven your trust. You even offered to go get a new airbed for her after he dropped the bed bomb on you. This is giving red flags. Do you have cameras set up in your home ones that would clearly be able to show if they went to the bedroom together? Because my suspicion is they plan on having sex, and he told you about the plan of her sleeping in the bed with him. So if you saw something on camera, his already gave you an excuse and thinks he's being clever, throwing a tantrum and gaslighting you about not trusting him and being jealous? If there's no cameras, is there any other way you would be able to tell she had slept in there? Honestly, from what you have put here, it really sounds like he's trying to cheat on you and doing a really bad job of trying to pre-cover his tracks. Commenter 2. Friend, you seem chill as fuck. Based on this post, I honestly can't imagine you truly overreacting to literally anything. You didn't even accuse them of anything nefarious when he mentioned them both crashing in your PL bed. You just told him that you weren't comfortable with that, and then offered to personally help solve the only one place for them to sleep issue. After he'd said lack of other options is why they'd both probably sleep in your bed. Have to share a bed is literally a romance book trope, and this dude basically said, I'll go to her brother's house with her if you don't fully encourage me sleeping next to another woman in our bed. If your man is still breathing, you deserve a goddamn Nobel Peace Prize. I would do a murder if my husband ever said anything like that to me. I'd say, JK, but I am pretty much dead as a. Commenter 3. Happened to me before. My then boyfriend told me a friend who is a girl was going to crash on his house for a night because she's from a party near his house and needs a bed to rest for a night. I trusted him. He even called me the whole night, 11 p.m., when the girl came up to 2 a.m., so that I won't get sus. He assured me this girl is a girl bro friend, and they won't do anything aside sleeping. He said she slept on the couch. Little did I know the girl was already giving him a head while we were talking on the phone, then decided to end the call because he's sleepy now. But the truth was he was inserting his dick on the girl's cunt and started humping already. They were done fucking at 4 a.m. and my BF's grandma saw the girl getting out of the house sneakily. I only learned about his cheating after I accidentally read their conversation in Messenger. Years after it, I was so devastated. Sadly, I married him already when I found out. Commenter 4. It kind of sounds like there's been something going on with them for a while now, and she's only able to come down when you're conveniently not going to be there. It could be a coincidence, but the way he's acting sounds like he doesn't want to be separated from her for some reason. He could just as well catch up with her, and they go to their own accommodations, but this doesn't seem to be what your BF wants. At this point, can you trust anything your BF says if you ask if something happened between the two of them? No matter how much you protest, he's going to stay with her while you're gone and most likely in the same bed. Just tell him he can move out and spend all the time he wants with her because you're done. I wouldn't want either of them in my home doing who knows what. Change your locks. Stories. Number 17. Everyone must have children. I have a daughter who is 26 years old. She is also autistic. She is functioning enough that when she has mental health appointments and things like that, I can order her an Uber and feel confident that she'll get there on her own. She does not drive. Today, she had an appointment at the hospital because she keeps developing cyst on her ovaries. And because it's going on so long and it's so painful, they're going to talk to her about removing at least one of her ovaries. So I ordered her an Uber, and she sent me a text later upset. The driver asked her why she was going to the hospital, and because she's always very honest with pretty much anyone, she told him the truth. She was going to talk about getting one of her ovaries removed because of how much pain she's been in from the cyst. He then started telling her that she was too young to do something permanent like that, and she should be more concerned about having her children while she's young. She then explained to him that she is autistic and does not want to have children. He told her that children are God's greatest gift, and even with autism, she would make a good mom as long as she had enough support. Yes, I have reported the driver, but I am so freaking annoyed with this. Comments. Commenter 1. Holy cow. I work with high school age autistic students, and I will definitely do a lesson on social skills with them on this. Not because their behavior is in any way lacking, but how to deal with random people feeling they can ask deeply personal, invasive questions. I am so sorry your daughter had to deal with that jerk. Commenter 2. I can't help but wonder if men would be so adamant about everyone participating in the continuation of the population if their lives were on the line. Commenter 3. I have an I lie to Uber drivers policy. For this very reason, I'm a 61-year-old woman, and for years I was honest about being single and childless, all happily by choice. You would not believe the proselytizing I had to put up with from men. Apparently, I'm unhappy and live an unfulfilled life. Now I just say I'm married with 2 Kids, and it shuts down the conversation. My peace is worth the lie, commenter 4. Such a gross, unfortunate conversation. You might want to teach your daughter that she doesn't have to share private information, especially medical info, with strangers. Reply: yeah, we're going to talk tonight. I know whenever something like this happens and I try to talk to her afterwards, she immediately thinks that she did something wrong. So I've got to really think about how I'm going to talk to her about it and let her know she didn't do anything wrong, and the guy was just a gross jerk. Stories number 18. Aita for telling my SEL that breastfeeding is not about her journey but about her starving baby. So I've published the first part of this story before on breastfeeding and Mommet subreddits, and I've been made feel like a monster because mother knows best. For the record, we are in Europe. I'm sorry for my English, and also I'm extremely emotional. My sil Julia gave birth to a little Amanda 11 weeks ago. From the beginning, Amanda was barely growing, mostly losing weight instead of gaining. My country is heavily pro-breastfeeding, and Julia decided that she wanted to breastfeed. However, Amanda wasn't gaining weight properly and landed in 01 percentile for weight. Julia forbade me and my mum from coming to visit them. She said we will poison her if we bring her food. It was surprising, especially that before she gave birth, we were good friends. So we only saw little Amanda on pictures and videos my brother has been sending to us, and only once. My mum said she's worried because Amanda looked like she's hungry. She was crying and writhing, pushing her fists into her mouth, while Julia narrated on the video that this is how a happy baby looks like with a full belly. So my mum asked if Julia cannot give her a bottle because Amanda still seems hungry. Julia went berserk and cut us off completely. She was pumping, but her supply didn't go up at all. Amanda had a tongue tie resolved, but it didn't help much. Julia was using donor's milk to top up Amanda's feeds through a sonde. I don't know what this thing is called now. Every week they're visiting a doctor's office for a control checkup of the weight. This is where it gets really messy. They were there yesterday. And yesterday, my brother called us crying that Amanda is in the hospital. The story went like this. As always, Julia asked my brother to bring her coffee before the weighing appointment while she's using the nursing room to change Amanda's nappy. As always, he did. Except this time, a nurse went in the middle of it to ask Julia about some paperwork, and the nurse saw that Julia was feeding Amanda from a bottle right before the checkup. The bottle was 150 cl of milk, and it was already half down. The nurse said that Julia was supposed to wait with feeding until after the checkup, and then my brother came in. He got very mad. He said that Julia refused giving Amanda the bottles. So WTF was going on? Then he took the bottle, and at the same time Amanda vomited with a very, very thick milk. Nurse went crazy and checked the bottle, and it was filled with milk mixed with rice cereal. The doctor who's been called to see it immediately ordered moving Amanda to the hospital for an emergency checkup, especially after seeing Julia, who went berserk and started throwing stuff around and yelling at everyone that she will be feeding her baby however and whenever she wants. We went to the hospital to see my brother. Amanda already had her blood tests done, and they showed some problems with kidneys, liver, and vitamins level and iron. The doctors said she has been starving for a long time and why nobody from our family reacted. We told them the story about Julia claiming that we will poison her. So the doctors immediately took Julia for a psych evaluation for PPD, but turns out she was faking it. She admitted to the doctor she was super scared that somebody might take the baby from her, that her friend told her that if she fakes PPD, we will leave her alone, and she will have peace of mind during her breastfeeding. The doctors then told her that what she did was not okay, and that she was regularly stuffing the baby with milk and cereal before the weight checkup so as to pretend that Amanda grew, and that she should just give Amanda bottles with formula, because this is about the little girl's life and survival, as she's now failure to thrive, and her life and health are in danger. Julia got very mad. She yelled that she will either breastfeed Amanda, or she won't feed her at all, and that the choice is only hers because this is her baby and nobody else's. Now this is when the doctors told Julia that either she will go for another psych evaluation, or they call the police. Julia agreed for the evaluation and they locked her for a week. My brother is working 14 hours per day because they are poor. And after their wedding, Julia decided she wants to be a traditional wife, and he has to earn their living. So my brother said that whatever Julia is doing, it must be right. But after seeing what was happening, he got super mad. He said that she starved Amanda on purpose for her own sick satisfaction, even though he was working hard on providing money, so they would be able to buy formula if needed. He said he wanted divorce and full custody over Amanda. We don't care if he will get it because it's rare for dad to take care of their daughters. Also, the doctors are mad at him that he didn't notice what Julia was doing. Before Julia went to the ward, I got angry and told her that she made monsters out of us, and that we were just worried about her and Amanda, and that those whole situation was always only about Julia and her breastfeeding journey, and not about Amanda's life. She called me a bitch and said I should have died in childhood because nobody can love an autistic person like me. Update. Aita for telling my sil that breastfeeding is not about her journey, but about her starving baby. First of all, our little Amanda is doing good and stays in the hospital. She's being fed with formula and bottles. My brother had to agree to this. And since yesterday gained 30°, she had more tests done, and we're waiting for the results. The doctors are also worried about the fact that Julia force-fed Amanda with cereal mixed with donor milk before the appointments because apparently it can cause some problems with digestive system in the future, especially that they don't know for how long. She's been doing it, and she doesn't want to admit it. Second, thank you all for your support. Also, thank you for the comments stating that we let Amanda down and put her in danger. Me and my mum realize it, and we feel terrible about it. Some people were questioning what happened, because my previous post in other groups stated that Julia is feeding Amanda, and that she's doing everything she can to provide milk for her. And yes, that is true. This is what we knew at that time. We didn't know Julia decided that it's either breast milk or nothing at all. She only said this in front of the doctors. My brother took vacation at work, and most of his time he stays with Amanda, but he will be moving in with us. All this time he's been working and later doing overtime under the hand, and he feels exhausted but says he had no other choice. He promised he will do everything he can to be a good father. We don't have any information about Julia. But no matter what, we worry about her. She's our family as well. She doesn't have her own family. She said before the wedding that she and the rest of her family had a fight, and they cut her off so she is alone in this world. And we felt very sorry. For her, we managed to get in touch with one of Julia's friends, Linda, who was donating milk to her. Linda was terrified with the story, and admitted she was the one who told Julia to pretend that she's afraid of us poisoning her. All of it because Linda's MIL was demanding to visit them after the birth, so she used this excuse for people to leave her alone. And apparently Julia said to Linda before giving birth that Amanda is only hers, and only she has the right to hold her, and Michael, my brother, if really needed. And I don't understand this because my mum never asked to hold Amanda. In the hospital 2 days ago, it was the first time we saw Amanda in real life. Linda also told us that she introduced Julia to the milk league, and there she found out all the bad things about formula and bottle feeding. Also, it turns out she never wanted to vaccinate Amanda, but my brother forced her to. Linda said she recommended Julia a couple of lactation consultants who apparently weren't real educated LCs, but some women with Instagram accounts claiming to know a lot about breastfeeding. This is all for now. This is all the information I gathered. The most important to me is that Amanda is safe with the doctors and nurses. I will update whenever I know something more if you want. Stories number 19. Aita for wanting to leave home over a toddler? Okay, so, for context, I am the oldest of 5, 2 brothers, 2 sisters. I am 17M in February. My youngest brother, Toddler, moved into my room with me. I have a 12M brother. He should have moved in with, that's another story. Anyway, in order to get him to bed, him and I would watch TV in his bed together. He's a cuddle to fall asleep kind of baby, and I'd have him to bed usually before 11 o'clock every night during the summer. Occasionally my mother would take him out from my room to sleep in hers for my sanity. This was nice initially, but it became recurring, and eventually it got to the point to where, after months of sleeping in my room, he got adjusted to going back to his mom's room. This isn't even where it gets bad. She then introduces a tablet at bedtime, which again, initially was not an issue. He was distracted at night, and it gave me some peaceful time to play video games. But again, it became a consistent nightly routine, and he got used to it. Now he wouldn't go to bed without it, and occasionally would cry to go to his mom's room. Mind you, he didn't do this when he got adjusted to sleeping in my room. He now gets away with going downstairs several times a night for whatever fathomable thing. Chocolate, food, milk, etc., which he does not need. He is well fed, and only needs to come upstairs with water. He screams to get out of my room every night, wrestles me to leave my room, cries over anything. And the worst part is, I am to blame. According to my mother, I try to watch his tablet that I don't want him having at bedtime with him. I try and watch TV with him. I try and play with him for a little to get him tired. Anything to get him to settle. But it is now just constant running to leave my room and scream and cry. I think this is a case of unregulated tablet use, along with excess sugar. But obviously, since I know nothing according to my mother, this is simply my fault. She says that if we don't get along, I am going to lose my phone for a week. I am 15 years older than him, and that she needs to work in the morning. But simply if she hadn't gotten him adjusted to doing whatever he wanted, or caved in and gave him a tablet, chocolate or food, or even being allowed to come down for that matter, this wouldn't be an issue. I don't understand how this is my fault. And my hands are tied. Am I the asshole? Is there something I don't know or can do differently? How do I respond to her about it in a way that she could understand without coming off as rude? That this dilemma wasn't caused by me or my lack of bothering? Please help, thank you. Comments. Commenter 1. Ugh, I'm sorry. This is what happens when parents have more kids than they can handle, and they pawn the youngest off on the oldest. You did not sign up to parent your sibling. You are 17. You deserve your own space. Your mom needs to start being a parent. NTA commenter 2. NTA. But you're definitely a free child care worker. ATP missing some context. But this seems like you're expected to be an extra parent and problem-solve things. Your mom won't reply. What context should I add to help you guys better understand? Commenter 3. NTA. She's prettifying you but doesn't want you to question anything she does wrong either. You can only parent your brother in the things she doesn't want to deal with. You have been more caring than a lot of teens at your age. Do you have any ways of staying out of the house, like getting a job? Are you going for college soon, and if so, can you go to a campus where you don't stay at home? Reply: I'm graduating high school in a few months, and then I'm off to the USAF. Unfortunately, my family needs me to do things like this. Commenter 4. I am positively furious with your mother for having very literally dumped her last child on her first child. Your 2-year-old brother should not be in your room, and no one but your mother or father should be putting him to bed on a regular basis. The occasional time that you or one of your siblings are putting him to bed, you should be following whatever protocols that your parents have established and practice nightly themselves. Bedtime should look and feel the same to a child every single night, no matter who's in charge. The occasional time when mom or dad can't be you for sure should not be struggling to undo whatever bullshit habits your parents have caused this toddler to develop. You need to have a sit-down with your mother and tell her point blank. You have completely lost sight of who this child's parents are. I'll give you a hint. Neither of them is me. Look up prettification and tell us if something in the definition doesn't sound familiar to you. Stories number 20. If your wife or other family member's initial description of you is, works all the time and eats birdseed, how would you feel? I recently overheard my wife describing me to some new neighbors who I hadn't met. They asked her, "Tell us about your husband." And she responded, "He gets up at 5 a.m. and works all the time until 7 p.m. and just eats only birdseed." How would you feel if your wife or other family members described you that way? When first describing you to someone and wasn't joking, not, "He's a wonderful husband, he has to work a lot, but he graduated from school X and is a senior partner at company Y." Not, "He's really great. He's done really well in his career at company Y and is really fit. So happy that I married him." Would you feel insulted and disrespected? To add, "We have 2 adult children in college, 1,500 miles away. They refuse to visit her other than stopping by for literally 10 minutes 3 times a year. They say that the reason is because my wife ignores them when they visit and won't even talk to them. I see our children every few weeks, though." Comments. Commenter. You work 14 hours a day and she probably barely sees you. How's she supposed to know what you're like? Yes, she shouldn't have described you like that to a new neighbor. but you need to really reevaluate what you're doing with your life and your marriage. Commenter 2. Working 14-hour days is not a virtue. Commenter 3. Bro, she did you a favor? Why would you want people to know you work for McKinsey? That's embarrassing. Stories number 21. AITA for exposing my SIL's 21F medical school progress to my fiancé 27M and in-laws. A little background. My dad is a doctor growing up. I was constantly around medical conversations. I'm not an expert, but I know enough to follow along. My SIL 21F has been in med school abroad since Feb 2022. Last December 2024, before leaving our city, she mentioned she was retaking anatomy and histology. I know those are tough subjects, but she had failed them and needed to try again. Then she went on a month-long vacation with her 32M boyfriend, mind you. This was after staying with us with 2 months. I've never met a med student who wasn't stressed, overworked, and claiming they barely had time to breathe, let alone travel for months. It didn't add up, but I kept quiet. While she was here, she also made me feel horrible, treating me poorly and acting entitled. Still, I bit my tongue because it wasn't my life to interfere with. Fast forward. I overheard her say she's only taking mental health this year. That shocked me out of curiosity. I looked up the med school curriculum at her university, did the math, and realized she's 4 years into med school but only academically in year 1. She's 2 years behind. Her uni has a year 0. Meanwhile, my in-laws have been sending her a generous monthly allowance. Plus my fiancé and I often wire her money whenever she asks. I also give her gifts because that's my love language. Recently, my mill called my fiancé complaining that Sil was being difficult, demanding another apartment while they were visiting her. That's when I finally told my fiancé what I'd found out. He was furious, and when he told his parents, they were devastated. Now SIL's birthday just passed, and my in-laws are with her, but the whole family is hurt and disappointed. I can't shake the guilt. On one hand, I feel like I ratted her out and caused drama. On the other hand, I couldn't keep watching her waste her parents' hard-earned money and mislead my fiancé. Stories number 22. The time I traumatized a nosy neighbor with kindness and boredom. This happened years ago. Me and my wife rented a small, single-room flat on the top floor of an old townhouse. A nice arrangement for a young couple, except for the lady living below us. She was a real thorn in our side. We immediately started off on the wrong foot because barely a week after we moved in, she knocked on our door to inform us that our toilet is leaking through her ceiling. She dragged us into her apartment to show us the wet ceiling. She was always polite, a seemingly nice lady in her 50s, but somehow full of vitriol. This was a serious problem, and the owners were out of town, so we apologized and arranged a plumber immediately to prevent further damage. The plumber had to break our bathroom floor to check, and there was no leak anywhere. The building manager years later candidly told us that she does this with every new tenant. Maybe to establish some kind of dominance or to collect insurance, who knows? After that, she frequently stopped us to complain about everything. You are stomping too loud. We had carpet everywhere. You hammered all day. We put together a small IKEA cabinet in like 15 minutes on an afternoon, stuff like that. She also liked to complain about other residents. XY over there is selling drugs, you know. At one time we had a friend over and she knocked to check if I was at home or if my wife was cheating on me. She was a general menace for 2 years, even though we kept the conversations polite and jovial at all times. The only thing she did not complain about was our cat. Instead, she creepily insisted that our totally indoor and neutered female cat is the bride-to-be for her male cat that roamed the halls all the time. At one time she stopped me in front of our door. Yes, she just happened to climb the stairs there, and started to explain something, and casually asked where I was born. Yeah, she was racist too, although never against us. And I noticed that she was not interested in the answer the least, and a plan was formed. I started to tell her everything about me in excruciating detail. Where I was from, how I was born. I was a miracle baby, you know. What happened to me when I was 3. How I felt during historic events in my childhood. All in a happy and confidential tone. Like we are good friends. Just a torrent of boring personal details. And good vibes. I noticed she took a step down the stairs. I took a step down too. She wanted to interrupt. I started another tangent. When we reached the landing on the stairs, I positioned myself in front of her. I kept her for almost an hour. When I ran out of stories, I started to just make shit up on the spot. When I let her go, we had already inched to her apartment door. I assured her that this conversation was so great that she can expect more riveting tales from me in the future. Next time we met in the hallway, I went out of my way to look happy and jogged over to her to chat, but sadly she had urgent grocery shopping to do. Next time my face lit up as I saw her and waved, she just fled back into her home. My plan was a glorious success. I scared her away with kindness and boredom for good. She never really bothered us after that. She never risked another story hour with me. We lived there for a couple of years after that. We even got our poor cat out of her arranged marriage. Stories. Number 23. Making mother of the groom wear the white dress she brought. I was in a wedding 6 months ago where the groom's mom was a piece of work. She would cause problems before or at every wedding event and ruin it for the bride, but act like nothing was wrong. For example, when it came to wedding dress shopping, the bride wanted a dress from this very specific designer who had a boutique in her hometown. We made an appointment where MIL was invited, but in the beginning, while we were all wandering around the store looking at dresses for the bride, Mill pulled a bunch of bridesmaids' dresses and just began trying them on in the dressing room reserved for the bride, and came out like she was the bride asking us all for our opinions on the mother of the groom dresses she picked. I don't know why the staff let it happen, and the rest of us were so blindsided by her behavior we did not check her. She acted like it was no big deal that she hijacked the appointment, including insisting that the consultant help her and not the bride, and after she chose her dress, she told the bride, "You can have your turn now." We ended up abandoning that appointment, but since the bride loved that designer, one of the bridesmaids called the owner of the shop and designer and complained about how the situation was handled. We got a new appointment with the owner, designer present, and without MIL, that went much better. After that incident, the wedding party got much better at handling MIL. But since the groom was useless in managing his mom, there were still incidents at almost every stage. When the bride went to go pick up her dress, they also handed her MIL's dress too, saying that both were charged to her credit card. Turns out, the groom called and told the store that they would pay for both. At that point, the bride was at the point where she was okay spending a couple hundred extra if that meant she knew what MIL was planning on wearing and didn't fight it. Mill never picked up her dress and told us to just take it to the venue. We did, but day of the wedding, Mill goes to change, after getting hair and makeup done, and ignores the garment bag with her dress, and changes into a white wedding dress she brought with her. It was not as fancy as the bride's, but it was a wedding dress. Since the bride's dress was ivory, Mill's white dress looked even brighter. At this point we were used to Mill's antics. Before every event she would do something insane, get checked, play the victim, adjust her behavior, enjoy the event, like nothing is wrong, happy just knowing she ruined it for someone else. So we told the bride to let MIL wear the dress. It was obvious she wanted to cause drama and ruin the morning, so just don't play. Instead, we should lean in and make sure she wears that dress the rest of the day. We hid the spare dress she had us bring. I even offered the dress to one of the older aunties at the event. We had arranged for a limo service to take the elderly guests home after dinner. I took the spare dress and delivered it to the auntie to take home. Made sure to mention that this was supposed to be MIL's dress, but clearly she didn't need it. Just to make it clear to everyone on the bus that bride did not give Miel permission to wear. White Mill refused to pay for her own room. Her room was in the name of one of the bridesmaid who booked it for her. Bridesmaid claimed she lost her key card and asked for a new one, and asked that the hotel not provide a new one unless the person had her ID, so MIL couldn't access her room till the end of the night when bridesmaid gave her the working key card. And we couldn't quite arrange for a bridesmaid to spill red wine on Mill, but we did hand her a toddler with a red fruit pouch that he did manage to squeeze over both himself and her, so she had to wear a stained white dress for the rest of the night. In front of everyone and in all the pictures. She did call the groom later about how everyone, mainly the older members of their family, scolded her for her behavior, and the dress she tried to blame the bride for letting it happen. But even this groom is not quite so blinded that he can blame his wife for letting his mom wear the dress she chose to wear. Stories number 24. Aita for not picking her up at the airport at 3 a.m. after she repeatedly said no. Context: I'm a 32M. She's 29F now, ex-Russian girlfriend. She spent a month back in her home country. I took her to the airport before her trip. Before leaving, she bit my hand, but this time it left a mark that I scratched a lot, and it developed into eczema. I went to the doctor, who said that because I kept scratching it, I'd made it worse myself. At first, I was worried it might be a fungal infection, so I told her about it a couple of times. I joked, "Are you sure you don't have rabies?" I genuinely wasn't upset, just concerned, and I reassured her multiple times that it wasn't her fault. I only asked that in the future she not bite me on the hand, even if it's her way of showing affection. About a week before she was supposed to return, I asked her when and on which day she wanted me to pick her up. Since I didn't remember the exact details, she replied, "I never asked you to pick me up. I told you that if you want, you can." So I clarified, "I'm asking because I care and want to pick you up, but I'd just like to know if you want me to." The day before her flight, I checked in again, and she said she already bought a bus ticket and didn't need or want me to pick her up. I told her I was disappointed that she'd rather choose pride over letting me help, but I respected her wishes. Still, I stayed up late to make sure she got home safely. When we finally saw each other again, she told me that she had secretly hoped I'd show up anyway, and that when I didn't, it made her realize how things really are and always will be with me. She made me feel like the villain for respecting her wishes. When I said that I stayed awake to check on her, she told me, "Wow, the act of a real man." On top of that, she was upset about the rabies joke, and said that after all I'd said, she didn't want to ask for my help or see me, because I made her feel guilty, so it all just felt it was up to me to make the effort. I genuinely felt ashamed and guilty, as well as angry Aita for not picking her up after she explicitly told me not to, or for the way I handled this whole situation. Edit. I didn't expect this to explode. For extra context, while she was away, she barely texted, and was always busy. Which I understood, she had things to take care of, but she never found even 5 minutes for a quick call, but was totally fine on going on a road trip for a week with her parents to St. Petersburg. That's why I asked her directly if she wanted me to pick her up from the airport, since she didn't find the time for me. Edit 2. She dumped me 3 months ago, as you can see from other posts, and I am journaling all the BS that didn't seem fair to me, and processing the shit I embraced instead of having self-respect. Edit 3. I had taken her many times before this situation, so this was new for me. Plus, she didn't have a car, so I was the one driving to her all the time, and honestly, I was always very happy to do it.